Well, hello everyone. Um, welcome to the stream. I say hello everyone, but it seems as though I am alone here in the stream today, so it is what it is. Nobody's here, and that's fine. So I'm going to be talking to the future viewers, whoever decides to listen to the VOD. So, hello! Sorry it has been such a long time since I have done any sort of live stream or even really any videos recently, but I'm glad that I can do something now here, and let's go ahead and get started. So today I'm going to be doing some basic terraforming stuff, and honestly what it is I'm going to be mostly doing a lot of painting in using world edit still, but I did want to mess with Axiom, and I specifically wanted to do this stuff on the stream today, partially because— oh, somebody's here! I'm not alone! Hooray! Hello! Yeah, hi! I'm not alone anymore! Alright, so, what I'm doing today is we're going to be in the Legend of Alex world, and Soup showed up! Yay! Hi guys, thanks for showing up! Sorry about all of this. I know it's been a long time since I've been doing any sort of live streaming, and I know some of you would probably hope that I would be doing my lunar cathedral today instead, but what I really wanted to work on is just doing little tidying up jobs around the Legend of Alex world. Yeah, what I'm mostly doing is more painting, and something I'm going to be focusing on is I didn't actually paint any of these riverbeds, so they're really messy down here, where you can see I was painting and then it's just plain stone. So I have to come up with something to put in the riverbeds. I'm kind of thinking of just doing like a more of a crunchy textures thing, so things like cobblestone, regular basalt, not the smooth stuff, things that look like pebbles. So I have to come up with a palette to put down here and paint all of my riverbeds, and some of that might change depending on the location. Other things I wanted to do is I was very meticulous about this area in particular here, where I was, making the lighting effect better, where this side is shadows and everything else on this side is being illuminated. And I only did that for Zora's domain, and I really want to pull that down into the rest of the world. And then after a while, something else I wanted to mess with is a lot of my cliffs are very round. And especially, it's most obvious, and I actually can use, I'm not used to using Axiom here, but I can actually up my speed in which I fly around. I think that's my speed that I'm flying around with. Maybe? Don't know. But, yeah, so the main thing I need to do is go and clean up this forest area, and I think I did this rock, but I didn't do any of these rocks, and it looks bad. And especially back here in this back corner, it's just sort of like, yeah, it's there. Same with Lake Hylia. So that's where I really want to clean up rocks, is around the forest and in Lake Hylia. I think I might also change the texture for my dark forest here, because while this is a great dark foresty color scheme, well, it's not what a forest would actually look like on the ground, because, relatively speaking, or not relatively, generally, when you have a bunch of trees, the ground actually tends to look more like this, where it's nice and muddy and dark. So I'm wondering if I should do more like Podsley stuff and make it just brown with patches of grass here and there. But for the most part, if you have large trees, there's not a lot of grass in that area, just because grass can't survive without the sunlight. And then what we can do to add greenery down below is add like bushes and foliage, but we'll do that after we add the trees. So that's kind of my plan for that. I have an awful lot of big plans with this whole world, but my goal for today is to get all of the terrain stuff before foliage and trees, and get it all completely done, and then I can save a copy of the world and start loading in all of my schematics for the castle town, Temple of Time, and then any of the existing temples as they are. So Water Temple and the Forest Temple, well, Wind Temple technically, are going to go in because those are, while need some polishing, they're pretty well done. And then we can talk about the Earth Temple later because I had it at a point where I was happy with it. I thought it was done, but I've compared it to how big the rest of the temples are, and it's tiny. So I'm actually going to rebuild using the same themes as my other Earth Temple. I'm going to completely rebuild that from scratch. But, you know, at least the ones that are mostly done I can start adding in. So that's kind of my goal, is to get this terrain finished so that way I don't have to touch it ever again. So to start off, I'm just going to, we're gonna mess with the riverbed, I think. I really want to paint the riverbed. So we have to come up with colors we want to use. I usually like to lay out a color palette. It's gonna take me a while to get used to this burst of speed when I fly in the air there. Whee! So, you know, stone is our real base, but I've also got colors. Oh, what is this? Ooh, oh, is that? I think that's this no clip. Ha! That's kind of cool. I actually kind of like that I can fly through rocks. Yay, Axiom! In case you can't tell, I am very new to Axiom. I pulled it up and sort of looked into what it does, but I'm very rusty with it, which is part of why I want to do it with you guys, so that way all of you who know how to use it better than I can tell me what I'm doing wrong and help me with some of that, because I also want to be able to do stuff with like Zora's Domain and clean things up, and fix some of my cliffs and stuff. I want to use Axiom to do that. Anyway, back to color palette. Sorry, I'm a little bit all over the place here. Maybe I should turn off the no-clip thing for a bit. So I have stone. Maybe what I should do is gather up my whole gradient, and so that way I can stare at all of it again. So stone is actually pretty close to the lighter blocks, and then we've got andesite and clay on the brighter side. Then we're going down to tuff. Alright, so Heya Soup said, I couldn't find a way to put chat on the screen yet. I'm still working on that. Heya Soup, who, by the way, is actually helping me with the map. He has offered to help do some of the bosses and stuff. He is commenting with, the terrain reminds me a lot about Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom so far. It sucks though that the render distance loads only a few chunks. Would have loved to see it all at once. I know, I really liked having the distant horizons on, and I really think that's the best way to view my terrain. But the problem was that, it was really buggy. And so it just, yeah, it had its fair share of issues. Where's my sticking stuff here? Alright, yeah, I'd love to be able to just, like, tell people to load up Distant Horizons and have that be the optimum way to play the game, but Distant Horizons is so buggy that it has, like, weird chunk errors a lot. I might actually turn down my speed and turn off this no clip, because I just need to go back to things I'm used to for a second. But yeah, oh, my speed's still too high. There. Oh, now this just feels like slow snail's pace over here. Okay, maybe I'll turn it up just a little bit. Alright, yeah, so this is what I've currently got. My crunchier textures is for sure the tough, and so I wanted to look into instead of using smooth basalt, or maybe using it next to the smooth basalt. It's just regular basalt. The side texture is alright. But the top texture is really what I want because it kind of looks like small pebbles. So that'll go well in the actual riverbed. And I just basically have to create like a flat texture in the riverbed here. I'm also wondering if I should maybe use Axiom to do the painting, because if you look at Axiom, maybe not that tool, so this is the weird thing that Axiom does. For those of you who have never seen it before, if I hold the, well, not hold, if I press right shift, it enters me into this weird creative menu. And what this is doing is it's using tools that are similar to like 3D modeling software and integrating it directly into Minecraft. And it's a little bit bizarre. I'm really not used to it yet. But there is more painting tools. That's a biome painter, noise painter. I think there's like there's a gradient painter, so I could maybe do stuff with that. So I could either use these tools that I've never used before, or I could just, use World Edit paint brushes, which is what I'm more used to, I guess. So, we'll see. Right now I just need to get my gradient down, and basically what I'm doing is I'm going to take the exact same blocks. Oh yes, Heya Soup is asking if it's Java exclusive. Most mods are, because Bedrock is awful. So, yeah, if you're working with Bedrock, honestly, if you're trying to do any sort of map making or things like that, it is a slog to work with it in Bedrock. It's much easier to do those kinds of things in Java here. Anyway, so I'm basically replacing all of these smoother textures. The problem is that, like Blackstone, you see that the drop in the gradient actually changed quite drastically between that, but it gets more of that crunchy texturing in, which is what I would prefer. So that, but I want that crunchy texture just in the bottom. The goal is to make it similar enough to the stone that it doesn't stand out, but have it be its own texture. And something that I was having the problem of course, is that I was using a texture that was vertical. On a horizontal surface, it tends to make these weird stripey things. So instead, I'm just going to manually paint it. And yeah, so I need to come up with a little palette here. So let's see here. That one's kind of grainy. I wonder what if I can use cobblestone. I really hate using cobblestone for terrain. I know a lot of people love using it, but for the most part I find it too crunchy to use, but crunchy is exactly what we're going for here. So yeah, I'll probably just stick with that. And I almost wonder, that cobblestone almost looks lighter than the andesite in some ways, and I almost wonder if I can skip the andesite. Maybe. I don't know, it's kind of at a weird spot where this is more, the cobblestone is technically a little bit lighter, but it's warmer. And then the andesite flows really, really nosely into the clay. I almost feel like I need to put the clay in the riverbed just for the sake of having the clay goes in the rivers. That's where it goes. But I also kind of want to make it so that way the river's just a little bit darker. So I might actually just kind of shave off those colors. What if my entire color palette is just these 5 colors? I think that might actually be the winner. There's still a large gap between the smooth basalt and the blackstone, but I don't know that there's anything that I can really fill that with. Deep slate is an okay choice, but deep slate tends to be a little on the warmer side. Cobbled deep slate might do it though, but let's see where that lies on the spectrum. Oh, that's like way lighter. I almost want to put that like here instead. But I like the little tiny stones. Look for the salt. That might actually be better than doing the basalt. And it has the side textures a little bit nicer, so alright. Go away, basalt. Cobble deep slate wins for that, I think. Maybe. Now it looks like there's a bit of a gap between those two. Alright, maybe I'll bring the basalt back. This is one of my problems, is I spend so much time fiddle farting. Ooh, mud. Where does mud lie? Ooh. There we go. Uh-oh, my headphones have decided that they want to die on me, which is not a good time. Apparently I did not charge my headphones before doing this. Alright. Wouldn't that be funny if my headphones just died and I can't hear anything for the rest of the thing? That might end up being how it works. Oh well. I actually like having the mud there. So, yay! Mud is a good filler for that. Let me try doing basalt for this section again. Let me just, reorder things a little bit here. There. Alright. Basalt. Try you here. Oops. Here instead again. Yeah, okay. I'm going back to basalt. Goodbye, D-Slate. Here is my crunchy riverbed textures now, and I think now what we need to do is just start programming in... What is that? Spawn eggs. They're messed up for some reason. Okay. This is the problem with working with mods, is sometimes things break, and they're like, okay, it's broken now. And I am not tech savvy enough to regularly fix them. Alright, so I'm just going to create... I only have 5 textures, so... Yep, 5 brushes. Wait, is that 5? No, I added mud. I'm weird and I like to have a natural gradient here. 3 and 4 are almost the same color. The 2 sections of basalt. Yeah, you're probably right. I could probably get rid of the smooth basalt here. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You were correct. It didn't need that. So yeah. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I like having the actual swords be in a sort of gradient, so that way it reminds me of what things are. Alright, so what I end up doing is I do, we're gonna make a brush that's a sphere that, see here, see if I can actually remember offhand how to do this. I haven't played in so long, it's been a while since I've set this stuff up, so I think, plot twist, the little creeper plush is the one playing. Yeah, I like my little creeper plush there. I put him there because it felt like that side of my screen was a little bit boring, so creeper plush now. Alright, alright, so what am I doing? We're making like a 75% blackstone and a how do I want to divide up the remaining 25%? Let's say 15% the mud, and that leaves 10% for basalt. Do I want to do that? Or actually, no, I'm just going to do 20%. 20% mud. And then 5% basalt. And I'm going to make sure I have a, well, actually I'm going to make a mask at the very end. So I'm going to make all my brushes first and then mask them. Oh, I forgot to make the size. Maybe I'll just put that up again, and I'm going to say, well, this is going to be a fairly small brush because the riverbed is kind of narrow. So we're going to do maybe 4. And then this one, we're now at the 5% is going to be, I might make, how do I want to do these percentages? Because this one I want it to be mostly mud with a little bit of the basalt, not basalt, blackstone. Sorry, I'm really rusty. I'm trying to remember how I do my brushes. Maybe what it is I think the one on the very end. Yeah, let's see here. For now, we'll say 75% mud. And then maybe do a 15% of the blackstone. And then 10% basalt. Is that how I want to do this? We'll try it, and we can always adjust things later. So then this one is now going to be basalt with mud behind it. Mud. And the thing in front of it is going to be tough. And then this one is going to be mostly tough. With a tiny bit of mud. Mud? No. We're not doing mud. No. No more mud. No, the tiny bit is the basalt. Wait, was basalt the tiny one before though? I think it was. So, tiny bit cobblestone. And then instead of mud, we're doing the tough. That sounds right. And then my top one is going to be more similar to the other thing, where it's going to be 75% cobblestone with like 20% tough and then like 5% basalt. Did I do these right? I might have not done them right. Oh! Lunari Cat says hi. So Ari is actually also one of the people who's helping me work on this map. So hi Ari! Welcome to the chat! Basalt. Yes, basalt. Alright. Now that I've got that, I can do just a mask of everything except for air. And everything except for water, I think. Because I don't want to color the water either. Nope, I did that one wrong. Alright, how do I do this? Base. Nope. I knew how to do this at one point, I promise. Air, parentheses, water. A! Yep, thanks for stopping in, Ari. It's fine if you need to leave. Alright, so that says that the mask's set, so hopefully it did, and let's go ahead and apply it to all of my brushes and hope that nothing dies. Shall we try it? Oh, that seems to be working. Alright. That's kind of a large gap between those two colors. I feel like I did these slightly wrong. But it'll be noisy, I suppose. Noise is better than not. Oh. Why are you not coloring? There it goes. I'm almost wondering if part of the problem, I might need to up the size because it might not be hitting the bottom of the riverbed because it's actually clicking on the top of the water rather than the bottom of that. I'm not sure how I want to do this. That seems like such a large gap. Oops, that's coloring too much of that. Undo! Undo! I'm gonna have to be very careful to not color too much of the edges. Maybe I'll just color everything bland and then I'll try to shade it later. This color seems to be a neutral enough one. This one I think has mostly basalt. So yeah, I think I might just for now color the entirety of the riverbed with this stuff. And you know, and I might just be lazy enough to call that good. Nobody cares what the bottom of the river looks like, right? Right? In which case, I could probably up the size. Yeah, you can see I can't color the bottom of that unless I go down into the water and then it's coloring the bottom of that. That's kind of a cool texture just by itself with just the tough basalt and mud. Maybe I don't need any of the black stone or anything like that. Maybe I'll just use this and be lazy. I think this is only clicking on the water directly in front of my face, which is why it's having issues. So, oh, my headphones just bit the dust, so I'm just gonna take those off because they're not doing anything anymore. I don't need sound! Who needs sound? Yeah, so the water's a little bit unfortunate. I almost wish I had painted the entire riverbed first and then added water, but at this point it's too late. So, are you guys still getting game sounds? I suppose I should actually make some game sounds here. Let me, Nope, my audio has suddenly stopped working. I'm looking at OBS and it's because my headphones died. It's like, I don't detect anywhere to send sound. So, whoops. I'm not sure what to do about that. Instead of clicking, isn't there a way to hold it? Like, hold what? The button down for stuff? Oh, the audio is good? Well, you can still hear me. That audio is fine because that's coming through my mic. I was talking about game sounds. Can you hear stuff when I'm actually destroying blocks? Can you hear that? Soup? Not really? Not really or not at all? Because, I think it's not at all, right now. Sorry for technical problems. Yeah, not at all. Yeah, I think OBS is telling me it's not playing game sounds anymore for you. Sorry. That was linked to my headphones for some reason and they died. So, RIP headphones. They will be missed. I was gonna increase the size of this to 7. Yeah, there. That's able to reach the bottom through there. We'll have to increase the size once we get to like some of the deeper areas, like Lake Hylia in particular is going to need to be increased. Kind of like that it's making a little bit of a gradient here right at the edge of the water too. So I'll leave some of that in. Maybe not that much though. Oops. I almost need to decrease the size a little bit. Maybe let's try 6. Because this is really narrow right here. Yeah, that feels better. We'll keep doing that. We're just going to go all through the entire river like this. So how's everyone doing? This is the part of the problem with doing streaming is I'm just like, okay, now I'm just talking to myself, and normally I would be completely silent during all of this. Any topics people want me to talk about? Any questions for me? Currently there's 3 people in the chat, so I know there's not a lot of you, and it's fine. Like any questions about the map? Been playing Deltarune recently. I actually played through Deltarune. But I feel like that was like when it first came out, and I think they've added stuff to the game since I played it, and I just didn't play through any of the rest of it. I think some of it for me was I was such a huge Undertale fan. And Deltarune was alright, but it did feel like kind of a step down from the traditional Undertale, and it feel like, yeah, they use similar characters, but the fact that all of the characters didn't remember anything that happened from Undertale, it was basically alternate versions of the same characters, felt a little bit odd to me, so I didn't really care as much about the characters in Deltarune. Oh yeah, so I actually cut off all of the water for Zora's Domain because I actually want to do something else with you as well, and that is I want to kind of terraform Zora's Domain better. So that's on my list, but I'm going to leave this unpainted for right now. So, back to river stuff. This river actually there's a side to it that goes back here, so I can sort of start doing this right now and carry it down. Yep, Soup's defending Deltarune by saying it's kind of odd indeed, but I say it opens up a different scenario, which is fair. Part of the problem with Undertale is that it was a completed storyline. There wasn't... I know a lot of people like trying to add in stuff for Undertale, but it did kind of end in a way that, in my opinion, was a good enough stopping spot for it. So I can see why Toby Fox didn't really want to make a game that was just basically a continuation of existing characters. It would be very difficult to see where it goes from there. But then using some of the same personality traits of the characters. So I can see the appeal and why he did what he did for Deltarune. And I don't think that Deltarune is a bad game. I don't know, it didn't catch my fancy quite as much as Undertale did. Alright, any other topics? I might like chapter 3 of Deltarune, but oh, what about my map? Do you remember when you started working on it? Oof. Well, I kind of covered this already, when I was introducing the map, but, it feels bad to say, but I actually started this map, when my first kid was born, right around there. Woo! Water errors! How do I fix that? So, I have 2 children, and, when my first one was born is right around the time that I started working on Legend of Alex. But the problem was that trying to do anything with a child kind of killed the project for a long time, which is kind of what's happening right now. Is I just had a second one, and it's like, how do I juggle having a baby and trying to actually do anything on the computer is actually a challenge. And so that was why I initially stopped the project for a while. Yeah, 2 big life projects at once, holy moly, is exactly right, is, cause, oh. Yeah, I'm trying to make the center of the river a little bit darker than the edges, in case you're wondering why I'm, like, going in with really darks in here. So, my scrolly wheel is broken. It keeps, like, rotating up and down. I don't know why it's doing that. I think I need a new mouse. This one is busted. Anyway, yeah, so that's where I started this when my first son was born. And that was 6.5 years ago. So it gives you an idea of just how long I've been working on this map, and that's where I was kind of hoping to be able to, like, put it on my videos, for my YouTube channel would get me to be like, yeah, let's keep working on it and actually get this done, because it's been sitting on hiatus for forever. And in some ways it did for a while. I was really working on it, really well for a while, but, then my daughter was born almost exactly 1 year ago. It makes me feel bad that I've only released like 4 videos since she's been born. I feel like I've been neglecting you guys a little bit, which is part of why I wanted to do this live stream with you today, is because I'm like, yeah, I want to work on this, honestly, so, but it's just, it's so hard when you have a needy baby who's just like, what? You're doing something other than watch me and play with me? How dare you? Soup is asking, saying, I hope you have AC on, because, man, these last few days, well, every house that I have, that is in this area has AC as a requirement. I am living in the south, where it is humid and hot every summer. So, like, yeah, it's just required at this point, to have AC on, otherwise, we would all be toasty fried. And actually, last week it was really cold, colder, I should say, so, yeah, temperature-wise, it's actually been nice, that I can take my son to the pool. He's learning how to swim. He's so excited for that, and now that it's actually warm enough, we can do that, so yay. I don't mind the heat yet. Once it starts getting to be like 90 to 100 degrees, that's when it's just like, okay, nobody's going outside, we're staying indoors forever. Wow, my scrolly wheel's busted. What the heck? I swear I'm not touching my scrolling wheel, and it's just like, whee! Which is kind of screwing up my gradients here. Okay. Oh, I need to go down into the water to really get the bottom of the river here. Maybe I want these really dark darks there. I kind of like that it's like adding depth to the water just by making the gradient, which is why I made the full gradient to begin with here. Imagine doing this all without Axiom. I'm not using Axiom, I'm using World Edit right at the moment. Axiom is this little icon on the far right that isn't normally there. And there's some ways, basically holding down left alt gives you some tool tips. And you can make selections, copy and paste, but with some of that stuff that's very basic, I actually prefer using World Edit just because it's what I'm used to, and I'd have to relearn how to do it in Axiom. So for little things like that, I don't care as much, but the main reason I wanted to use Axiom is because of the shaping tools. And specifically, while I was doing Zora's Domain, what I've done thus far has been using World Edit, and I was struggling with it, trying to get it to do anything that I wanted it to. So presumably what Axiom will do is I can actually have more of these tools, and I was only sort of looking at it, but there's like this rock tool, there's even some sculpting draw tools, melt, like there's a lot more tools for actually shaping the land in here. So that's kind of what I'm hoping to be able to use is some of this stuff. I was also using Voxel Sniper to kind of work with stuff, but Voxel Sniper also was limited, and the main thing I was looking at is in Zora's Domain I was trying to make a path that was just like a smooth walking trail. Part of the problem with these is, yeah, they've been smoothed, but you still have to like hit the button, hit the button, hit the button, and it doesn't look gradual. It tends to look like here's an elevation and then like a sudden then yeah, it's rounded, but it's you don't get like good slopes. In Axiom, there's actually this tool that's this slope tool. I am so excited to use this slope tool. I have to remember how to actually use it, but basically it was like you select a spot and then you select another spot, and then you're like, whoa, there's a nice gradual slope leading between those two. Isn't that lovely? So this is why I want Axiom. Yes, woo is right. We like the slope tool. And now I have a land bridge that I need to get rid of. I think I can just do Control-Z and it goes away. Haha, perfect. Yeah, if you need to go, that's perfectly fine. Honestly, I'm glad that anybody showed up. I was kind of worried at the beginning that nobody was gonna come. So, yeah. Yeah, so now I can... That's what I wanted to use Axiom for. And there's also a way to flatten stuff. And I was hoping... I think it's with the elevation tool. Maybe. And if I do something like that, and if I make the mode a flatten, I think what this does is it equals the values. Because right now the problem is that I have a lot of very curved cliff sides, where instead of the cliff going reep, reep, it's instead going reep. And so what I kind of want is I want more cliffs that are erp. Or I want them to even concave a little, where they come out and have an overhang, and then level it out. And I was really struggling to make that before, so we're going to hopefully make that a little bit nicer with Axiom. But again, I've only sort of played around with this, so I don't know if this is going to do what I want it to. So I think, yeah. So like, let's say I wanted this to be more of a cliff instead of a rounded thing. Is it the bottom of, or am I clicking on the mouse? How does this work? Whoa! It did a thing. Maybe that's a little bit strong. Maybe rate down to 4. Yeah, so I think I can kind of shape things a little bit better with Axiom. So that's kind of what I have Axiom on here for, is to really clean up the cliffs, which is another thing I want to do with you. I'm not just painting, guys, honestly. We'll be cleaning up cliffs. Speaking of painting, I'm okay with messing up that for right now, because I think I need to go through and repaint some of these shorelines anyway, a little bit. Because I also didn't really paint. I painted all of Death Mountain with shading, but then all of the area around I was like, good enough, and left it. And the more I've been staring at it, the more I'm like, no, not gonna work. I think I forgot to change the size to all of these, so I'm gonna like size all of these up. Did I do 7 or 6? I don't even remember anymore. Well, that's going to up to 7, because I'm tired of having to swim into the water every time I want to make a tool. It's so much easier to do it from here. There we go. Yeah. So it's okay if I'm going up onto the shoreline. I think I'm gonna go back and clean up some of that. And some of it still looks just fine. Just as is. But honestly, comparing this side of the river to this messy bit of the river, you can see why I have to do this. And it's like little subtle changes to the world that nobody's going to notice except for me, but at the end it makes a world of difference, and that's kind of what I wanted to do with you guys today. Something that works great for doing a stream, not so great for an actual like episode video sort of thing. Soup asks, what part of your map are you the most proud of? Honestly, I think the part that I'm most proud of part of the problem is that there's like, there's so many things that are just like, it's not done yet, but I've really been proud of the way that the Hyrule Castle has turned out recently. So I've been really happy with that, and I did that one with you guys. I'd say that's probably, and not necessarily the exterior. There are things that bother me about the exterior, but the interior, I'm proud of how the interior has looked so far. So I think my wind temple is up there. My water temple's okay. Not the most proud of it. And then I think another part that I'm really proud of is this is something that I haven't been able to share with any of you guys so far, has been the actual storyline for the game. I've been coming up with a lot of lore and a lot of story. I've shared some of that with Ari and Soup, and they're basically the only ones I've shared that with so far. I've tried to like share some of those ideas and such with, like, say, my husband, to bounce ideas off of him, and he kind of gives me this flat stare because he hasn't actually played any of the Legend of Zelda games, and I've tried to get him to play, and he's just like, not my thing. And it's like, okay, great, but I need somebody to nerd out about with this. So I've kind of nerded out with some of that to Ari and Soup, who are helping out, but I haven't actually shared it with anybody else yet. And I'm almost like scared to share it on on the YouTube channel, partly because it's like, it's my baby. And what if people are like, no, your idea is bad? I know that's such a silly concern and worry to have, but it's legitimate, where I'm just so, and I kind of feel that way about the entirety of the Legend of Alex stuff, where I'm just like, so worried that people are going to be like, you're wrong, you did it wrong, your entire idea is off and horrible, and I think that's just with any sort of creative thing, you have this fear that people are going to reject it, basically. But I am very proud of, I do want to say I'm very proud of the actual storyline, and the lore that I've come up with for this. And I think that's a big part of why I wanted to build the Legend of Zelda inspired map, is partly because some of it is that sorry, I'm reading chat for a second. Yeah, some of it is that, like, when Breath of the Wild came out, I was actually really mad at Breath of the Wild when it first came out. I think it's grown on me a little bit, but I'm still for longest time I contended that Breath of the Wild was a great game, but it hit me as being not very Legend of Zelda-y, because the lore feels so thin compared to what I was used to, which is like Ocarina of Time. And some of it is I didn't know some of the stuff, and like I've thoroughly explored the world of Breath of the Wild better now, and I can honestly say that, like, there are some parts that I'll amend my previous assessment of the game, but there are still some parts where it's just like, you basically summed everything up that's magical to ancient Sheikah technology, and it feels like there's such a disconnect between it and anything else in the timeline, because they shoved it way at the end of the timeline, so much so that everything that comes before it basically doesn't matter. So there's my hot take on Breath of the Wild. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to basically create something that does tie more into, like, the lore that I know from the games that really mattered to me, which is Ocarina of Time, A Link to the Past, some of those older games. And I also really wanted to try to incorporate some of my ideas that came into, I had similar issues with Skyward Sword. Some of the lore that they introduced was like, you're like taking the lore that I love and altering it in a way I don't really care for. But then I've also been able to look at that and be like, how can I incorporate it in my headcanon to make it make more sense? So that's kind of why I've been, like, nerding out over all of the lore stuff, and I want to include all of that. One of my ideas for a character to have in here is I kind of want to add a Sheikah, because the Sheikah are the defenders of not just the Hyrule royal family, but from things like the Eye of Truth and stuff, and the Gossip Stones. It always feels to me like the Sheikah are gatherers of information and truth. So they basically lurk and gather truth wherever they can. So I kind of wanted to create a character that's like, you find their notes that are just basically my headcanons for all of the Legend of Zelda games regurgitated as this Sheikah explorer who's going around and gathering information about random stuff, or like their thoughts and theories about certain things. So yeah, Soup brings up a good point. There are more people that prefer the actual gameplay rather than the story. I guess I've just been one who I really like reading about the lore. I was one of the weirdos who goes around Skyrim and Oblivion and all of the Elder Scrolls games and reads all of the random books off to the side just to gather some of their lore and stuff. I actually really like Elder Scrolls Online. I know that's a hot take as well, but I really liked Elder Scrolls Online as well because it added so much to some of the lore for all of the different races and like some of the events that happened, and I think that stuff is fun. I think it's cool. So I will say it does mean that some of the replayability for playing old games kind of gets a little bit lost on me, where I play for story and characters, so then when I play it again, it's like, it's almost like reading a book over and over again. After a while, it's like, okay, I need new characters to look at and watch. So I've never been one to just like play the same games over and over again, but what I end up doing is I'll like play a game, love it, and then wait like 5 years, and then I play it again and I love it again. So that just tends to be how I do things a lot, and I'll play them to death. So recently I've actually been well, somewhat recently I've been playing Tears of the Kingdom to absolute death, because I kind of made it my goal to 100% it. So I've made it where I've actually caught all of the Koroks in Tears of the Kingdom. I got the stupid poop thing. I was so proud of that. And then I was going to call it there, but I'm like, well, but am I really done? No, I have to upgrade at least one horse up to max stats. I have to collect all of the costumes and upgrade them fully with the great fairies, and it's a lot of grind work, and I know it's just silly, but it's what I do in my free time, is pull up Tears of the Kingdom and just grind for stuff. And so, honestly, I actually liked some of the storyline stuff for Tears of the Kingdom a little bit better than Breath of the Wild, because it felt a little bit more Legend of Zelda-y, but I was still a little bit disappointed because it turned from everything is ancient Sheikah technology to everything is Zonite. You've never heard of this race before now, except for like a brief mention of it in Breath of the Wild. It's never been in any of the other games, but now the entire lore is based on Zonite, and it's like, great! Yeah, it's your new cop-out answer for how everything works. There's still plenty of things about Tears of the Kingdom that like bother me. And some of their storyline basically amounted to, you know, oh, Ganondorf is bad and evil, and then, I don't know if I should even give any spoilers, but, you know, Zelda fixes it, but is self-sacrificing in the way that she fixes it. And now Link has to rescue her and save her again. But it just... I wish that there was more lore that you could find around the game. Basically, all of the lore you find is just telling the exact same story about how Zelda fixed things over and over again, and it's like, yeah, that's great, but like, can't you come up with any other lore? Please? So, I'm sorry, I'm glancing through chat again. Soup, I think it's funny that you mention the reading books. You love reading books, but man, doing so when you have ADHD is so dang hard. The funny thing is, I love reading books, but I also have ADHD. So, in case you wonder why I tend to get super scatterbrained, especially in, like, projects like this, especially while I'm just chatting and talking, I will ramble to death, and talk about the most random things, and a lot of it is because I have ADHD and tend to be so squirrel-brained with a lot of stuff. But I've always loved reading books, but I read them for all of the lore and story and stuff. But I tend to do the hyper-focus side of ADHD, where I either can't focus or I focus solely on that one thing, which is one of the reasons I have troubles doing like stream videos and stuff when I'm trying to raise kids, is because anytime one distraction comes by, I can hear the kid crying from the other room. Oh, something happened. Then it's always just like, her, and I get pulled out of the hyper focus and suddenly I can't focus on anything. So having kids with ADHD is the worst, I think. And so, like, I did love reading books, I did love doing all this stuff, and I suddenly have a really hard time doing any of that with children, but yeah, hyper-focusing on things you enjoy isn't inherently wrong as long as you take it in a healthy way. You're right, Soup. And it's the balance. You have to balance your own personal likes and desires with things that are going on around you, and that's where I actually really struggled with like school and stuff, because I would hyper focus on the things I cared about, but then it was like, oh, schoolwork, oh, that took a backseat sometimes, and then next thing you know, I'm failing all my classes. It was like, ah. And yeah, right at the moment my priorities really lie mostly with raising a child, because I am a stay-at-home mom. I take care of my baby. That's what I do. So then suddenly next thing you know, my YouTube channel, I haven't uploaded anything in 2 months again. So I'm really bad at balancing that, and I apologize for everybody. I would like to say it'll hopefully get better. I want to say probably August is when my son goes back to school, and at that point my baby will be, if not walking, at least she'll hopefully be a little bit more independent. She's currently just crawling right now. But she's at that stage where she just kind of will crawl maybe 5 feet away from me, and then turn around, look at me, smile, and then crawl back and be trying to climb up into my lap again. It's just like, go, be free, child. And then, which on one hand, I already know that, like, the inherent problems with her running around and being free is that means I have to like double down on baby proofing all of my cupboards and stuff, because right now she hasn't shown any interest in any of the cupboards and stuff, so I can be like, alright, you can do you, baby girl, and I'm not too worried about her trying to get under my sink and drink my my cleaning supplies yet. But it's coming, and so I inherently know that that's the problem with her becoming more individual, and but on the other hand, it's like, I want to do my own thing. I want to be able to get on my computer and play Minecraft for a little bit. Soup asks, are your children interested in Zelda as much as you are? Well, the baby obviously isn't, because she's not old enough to be interested in anything right now. But my son very, very much is. And that's been like one of my joys of parenting, is being able to share my passions with my kids. And so for the longest time what I did... Undo! For the longest time what I ended up doing was basically I would play games for my son, because he did okay when he'd play, but for instance, Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, he'd be like, can I play? I'll be like, yeah, of course you can play. And what does he choose to do at the time that he plays? He wants to cut down trees and cut grass. And after a while, I'm just like, can you do something else, please? Go do the storyline. Go talk to villagers. And I'm happy to read him the dialogue, but he's so content to just cut grass. But what I end up doing for him instead is I play the games for him, and then I'm doing all of the funny voices as I read all of the dialogue for him, and he's basically just watching me play the entire time. And for me, that's almost like reading books to him in some ways, because I am reading, I'm doing all the funny dialogue and stuff. And I love doing that. And so my son is actually so into Legend of Zelda that for the past 2 years, his birthday parties have been a Legend of Zelda themed. And this, like, the first one that he did, it was just a generic Legend of Zelda theme, but this, the one this last year, he specifically wanted it to be Majora's Mask themed, because he is so into Fierce Deity Link in particular. So, like, I made him his Halloween costume is the Fierce Deity Link, and he wanted the entire theme to be Majora's Mask theme, so that way it matched his Fierce Deity Link costume. We got to decorate masks for his birthday party, and I made him a piñata that looked like the creepy moon, and got to, beat it till candy came out. So, of course, when I posted that on Reddit, like, all the stuff, I made mention, and yeah, this is for my 6-year-old, and I had some people that are like, that's awesome, but also, what the heck kind of 6-year-old is playing Majora's Mask? And I got some people who were judging my, choice of games to share with my 6-year-old, and it's like, well, yeah, but it's like, it's not like it's gory, it's just creepy. So, but yeah, so we had, that was honestly a lot of fun. That's another thing that I've been spending my time with is, when I'm not working on Halloween costumes or birthday parties, it's like, that's random crafts and stuff that I end up doing with my kids. So, yes, my son is very, very into Legend of Zelda, and it's because I play the games with him, and I love being able to play the games with him. So much fun. So, yeah, that's something special I've been able to share with my children, and I'm hoping that, that my daughter will also be as into, like, gaming and stuff. But right at the moment it's hard to say, because right now she is baby, and babies don't really, like, have interests yet. So, they start to gain interests when they're, like, closer to, like, 2 or 3. That's when they start to actually, like, yeah, I really like this. So, of course, then their interests usually, my son was first, before he got into Legend of Zelda stuff, or got him into Legend of Zelda stuff, he was into monster trucks, so everything was monster truck themed, and we'd go to, like, the Monster Jam and stuff, and I learned more about monster trucks than I ever thought I would learn about in my entire life. Because that's not anything I want to do. Make a Zelda game for babies? No, I think you'd have a lot of people that'd be like, no, that's part of what makes Legend of Zelda cool, is that it's got some of the cooler, darker tones to some of the lore and stuff. I mean, you look at even Wind Waker, which has its cartoony style, is still has its dark elements in it, along like in like the Earth Temple and some of the other stuff like that. And I think that's part of what makes Legend of Zelda cool. And I think that's actually one of my issues I have with the direction that Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild went with, is it almost feels a little bit too dumbed down in some instances, and that kind of bothers me, where it's like, this is supposed to be cool, not like dumbed down. I look at, if any of you are familiar with Spidey and Friends, this is an example of taking something that's cool, Spider-Man and even some of the Marvel superheroes, and then they tried to dumb it down for kids to the point where it's so cringy and awful to watch as a parent, where it's, you start being like, yeah, I'll show my kids this. I love Spider-Man stuff. What have they done? What did they do to it? It's bad. And I feel like if you try to do anything like that to Legend of Zelda, it does the same thing, where it's like, okay, but you made it worse. Making something for babies should not make it worse. But half the time it does. And you're like, great. So, yeah, I am actually very against trying to market Legend of Zelda for babies in particular. That's a no from me. And that's as a parent with small children that I love dearly and love being able to show some of that stuff too. It's like, there are some points that maybe I share too much violent stuff with my kid, I don't know, but he handles it well and I know what his limits are. Though, I have freaked him out a couple times with some things where he just goes, I'm too scared, and he's even had moments like that, even watching me play Legend of Zelda games. I couldn't play Twilight Princess with him all the way through, for instance, because he got too scared in Twilight Princess. And it's like, yeah, that's fair. That one's maybe a little bit too dark for kids. But on the other hand, I do not advocate for dumbing things down to the point where kids can share in it, if it means that they're going to dumb it down to the point where it's cringy and just awful. So yeah, that's my point of view on sharing things with kids, is like, at some point you just say, yeah, I love this thing, but I'm going to wait till my kid is older and then I'll share it with them when they are ready for it. And some kids get ready for stuff like that sooner than other kids. I think it depends on the kid. So just basically, I'm not a big fan of like mass censorship of stuff, because it's I don't know, I really hate, for instance, what Disney Plus did to Bluey, of all things. Bluey is a show for parents that is cleverly disguised as a kids show, and for some reason Disney Plus decided to censor the most absurd things. Like, there's a point where Bingo asks basically, where do babies come from, and Bandit doesn't answer, because that's a notorious thing that's awkward to answer small children about. And Disney decided, nope, that's too risque. Even asking the question is too risque. Let's edit it out. They edited out an entire episode that was Bandit pretending to be pregnant with baby Bingo, basically playing with his kids, because the kids suggested it. And Disney went, nope, that's the entire episode is now going to be edited out. It's a hilarious episode, but you can't find it on Disney Plus because they're just like, nah, too much. They even tried to like edit out things like one of the background commentaries is Bandit like talking about basically being neutered, as a surgery that he could do. And what did Disney decide to replace it with? Oh, instead he's talking about having surgery to get his teeth removed, and he's reluctant to do so because what if you want to bite somebody? And it's like, you turned something that was an innocent thing that would have gone over every kid's head but made all of the adults laugh into something that, like, nobody understands and is confusing and is making it seem like Bandit is violent for some reason because he wants to bite people. And you're like, why? So, yeah, I'm actually kind of against over censorship. I think it's wrong. And some things, like, I'm understandable of, for instance, like, I'm not a big fan of swear words, so I don't use them in my own personal language even before I had kids, and so I'm actually okay with people dumbing down their language and refraining from using the F word or other things that, but having said that, have I shown my kids stuff that has swearing in it? Yeah, Does it really affect him? No, not really. If he starts using language that he's not supposed to be for things that are inappropriate, like if he's in school, I let him know, yeah, we don't use that kind of language in school or church. That would be bad. But then if he's grows up not knowing any of that language at all and then suddenly is very abruptly introduced to it, then that would be problematic. But I also don't like go searching for stuff that has swearing. And if things are swearing too much, like if I'm watching YouTube videos with my son and I notice that the people are swearing too much on it, I'll turn it off, because there is some measure of where it's like, yeah, it's okay to show him some stuff with swearing, but like, I'm not going to overstimulate it to make it seem like this is completely normal language to be had everywhere, so yeah. Anyway, I could ramble and rant about all sorts of things all day, so hope that you're enjoying the ride of me rambling and ranting about every little thing that comes to mind here. Yeah, so Soup's saying, in my opinion, every kid will be exposed to foul language at some point or another. It's impossible to keep their innocence permanent. And that's kind of my take on it as well, which is why I let him listen to some of it. I think some of it is when it becomes normalized, then it's just like, yeah, I don't want it to become a regular, he thinks that's just how all language is going to be. It kind of bothers me when people just, like, drop F words every other word, and it's like, did you not learn the English language enough to know what else you could use instead to be more creative than just swearing all the time? But then my way of dealing with that is I'll limit how much he's listening to that uses really foul language, and then I'll be open about, alright, so here's what this swear word means. Here's the context it can be used in. These are examples of people who use it too much. I'd rather hear of places you shouldn't use it, like at school. Please don't go around swearing at school. And I think I've been able to have an open up, and I have a cool enough kid that he's pretty open about, well, welcoming of me just, like, gently guiding some of that, where he's like, oh, okay, we don't use that word anymore, and then he tones it down. I know some kids are, like, belligerent, where they're like, what? I'm not allowed to use it? I'm going to use it everywhere now! And I can see why those parents would then have to be a little bit more strict with their children. So, thankfully my son is not that way, and he's pretty good at being like, oh, okay. Okay, Mom, we'll just not use that anymore. I say, thank you, and we move on with our day. So, anyway, so I think that's the end of that rant. And now I fall silent again. Any other questions? Comments? Thoughts? I know there's only 5 of you in chat now. Let's see here. What do we talk about now? Any plans for summer? No, not really. I have my parents are coming down to visit for, my baby is turning 1 really soon, so they're coming in like a week or so, to celebrate, the baby, and they're actually staying till the end of June, so I think that's kind of our real vacation-y stuff, is just like, hey, Nana and Grandpa are coming down, let's, you know, go and do stuff. They're staying around long enough that we can, you know, go to the beach and stuff like that. Daricio, it's putting in the chat, Steve's lava chicken song is what prompted me having the curse word talk with my kids. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about the Minecraft movie. I'm just not. I did not like it. So I'm not going to spend an hour complaining about it. Anyway, back to summer plans. Oh yeah. Soup's asking, what do you think about the Minecraft movie? I hate it. My son enjoyed it. I'm glad my son enjoyed it. I hate it. I think some of, okay, I'll go on the rant. I'm sorry. Some of the problem with the Minecraft movie is that a lot of it is, there is going to be a lot of parents' first introduction to Minecraft, because there's an awful lot of people who only look at Minecraft, and I say this coming from a mom who deals with a lot of other moms who are anti-video game, like, period. And so, like, I know that a lot of them, their first impressions of Minecraft in general is going to come from watching the movie with their kids. And so then to have it be basically every little bit was filled with slapstick and slapstick humor, shallow characters, and very little of the essence of what Minecraft is about. Minecraft is supposed to be about building and creating basically anything, and they kind of touched on some of those themes in the movie, but they didn't, like, show it enough. I think they could have had, the main kid could have started learning how to do redstone, and so at the end he could have built, like, redstone contraptions that could, like, you use his intellect to really show him, you know, using that for this final battle. Instead, the most they did for the final battle was they spammed iron golems. Oh, and then they added in his special touch that he added was something that you can't do in the freaking game, by buffing one iron golem to make it fly. And that was the entirety of what he added to do the creativity-wise. And it's like, okay, but that's not what Minecraft is about. I would have loved it if they had, like, his older sister was clearly meant to be, by the end, she was supposed to be the PvPer. Except you didn't actually see her do hardly any PvP in the actual game. But, like, she sort of did some at the end battle, but then didn't do anything else with it. There was the one gal who was supposed to learn how to work with mobs, and that was her thing that she did. And that was probably the strongest character in the entire thing, was the random realtor lady who learned how to do, you know, work with the new Minecraft mobs. That was the best. Garrett the Garbage Man was completely useless and could have been edited out of the entire thing. Just throwing that out there. But, you know, and some of the problem that I have is the fact that they had the adult gamers, because that's another thing, is Minecraft can be played with adults. And I feel like a lot of those moms that are anti-video game tend to view any adult video gamers as just these big fat slobs that sit in their mom's basements and aren't productive members of society. And this is the stereotype that I was hoping they would stomp and be like, no, Minecraft is a video game that can be played by adults. To be basically an artistic medium or something like that. Instead, we get Garrett the Garbage Man, who is very stereotypical fat guy who doesn't have a life and hasn't figured out how to move on past being a, you know, video game person when he was a teenager. And it was just like... And then what is Steve? Oh, well, what do you know? Steve is also some guy who couldn't figure out how to deal with life and move past his, you know, desire to basically use video games as an escapism method, I guess. You know, but it just... All of the stereotypes I was hoping they would fight, they instead... like emphasized. And so that's where it's like, I just know all of these people who are going in and watching, they've never seen Minecraft before, their first impression of it will be the Minecraft movie, and what do they get? A lot of stereotypes that are just basically taking their current mindsets and not changing any minds at all, and they're just going to be like, well, this was a waste of time and a piece of garbage. And kind of, yeah, the entire movie is that. It had a lot of shallow characters, very little storyline or plot, and a lot of just like old smelly guy, fat old smelly guy jokes. A random bromance that was awkward, and yeah, a lot of those moms who are going to take their kids to the Minecraft movie might even just be like, no, Minecraft is awful from there, and will... Yeah. That is my full rant on that. These are the reasons I absolutely hated the Minecraft movie, is coming from the point of view of a mom who has fought very hard to fight against other moms, I guess, that are so anti-video game that they won't even hear me out as to the benefits of it. And yeah, okay, I guess their audience is for kids and stuff, but it really bothered me just how cringy it was. And I am, like, they can still have humor. They can still be humorous and incorporate some of that, but you can have humor and have it actually have good characters, have good morals, have a good theme, and they just didn't. The story, characters, all of that was flat as heck. So yeah, that's my main problem with the Minecraft movie. And unfortunately now it's just basically a Minecraft thing, and you can't hear about Minecraft. Why is my game like struggling? Come on, load. Suddenly my painting is just like stopping. Anyway, that's my big rant on the Minecraft movie. Aren't you glad you heard it? So no, you won't hear me sing any La La Lava Chicken songs, because I just think it's kind of dumb and cringy. Yeah, so Heya Soup is saying this movie certain doesn't help the opinion that his colleague has on Minecraft as a whole, that strongly believes that Minecraft is a kid's game. And yes, that's exactly the problem with having the Minecraft movie the way it is it's for the people who actually care about the game being something that can be for adults as well as kids. It's so cringy that they just made it like basically taking it as Spidey and kids. It's like trying to introduce somebody to Spider-Man with Spidey and kids. Spidey and Friends, sorry. Spidey and Friends. Yeah, that's the one. Where you have something that is really cool, can be really cool, but somehow some person decided that to make it a kids show, they needed to dumbify it. I'm sorry, but that's how you get dumb kids, and that's how you get parents who hate that genre of stuff, is because all they see is the dumbed down kid version. And it's like, you're not doing anyone favors here. You're making your kids dumber, and your parents just hating everything about it. So Soup says the movie could have been animated instead and would have been 10 times better. Well, the funny thing is, with how much CGI they've used, it is animated. This is another problem with all of the Disney's fad of making all of their live action animated stuff, is it's live action because they have actors in a, what do you know, an animated setting with just, CGI, and it's like, okay, but that's not live action. You're just animating it different. And yeah, it would have been better as a medium that was a little bit less heavy on the CGI, basically bulking up the entirety of the movie. Art style. Animation is good for making art styles, and Minecraft graphics would be better as an animated thing, I think. Because yeah, some of those fleshy weirdness for some of the mobs and stuff was just like, ew. I did like that they took the villager and kind of like described him as just being fleshy and gross, and you're like, yeah, because he is. They kind of was a little bit self-aware of just how fleshy and gross their CGI looked in some regards. But yeah, the creepy squishy villager, yes. Villager steak. Oh, that is not a mental image I needed, Soup. Thanks for that. Ugh. Okay, I'm clicking. Oh, there it goes. I think there's something glitchy with my desert, and I'm not sure what it is, but like I was trying to test Axiom out in the desert earlier, and like it was making the whole world like my FPS, you notice it's at like 500 usually is where it sits at regularly. I went into the desert earlier and it dropped to like 9, and I don't know what it is. That is like the least terraformed section. Literally, I just used the basic dunes thing and just painted it. And for some reason, that's the section of my map that it's like, ugh, I can't do it, I'm lagging, and it's like, there's nothing there, why are you lagging where there's nothing there? So I'm not sure if I need to, like, delete my desert and remake it, because it would, at this point, for some reason, as I'm approaching, and you notice I'm in Gerudo Valley, which is right next to the desert, suddenly I'm having lag issues, and my scrolly wheel is going when I'm not pressing it again. Thanks, mouse! I need a new mouse. Oh. Oh, Soup has to leave. Well, thanks for coming, Soup. We enjoyed having you here. Bye! Yeah, anybody have any ideas as to why my desert isn't loading? I almost wonder if it's something, because I actually turned off axiom and went into it, and I figured out it's not an axiom problem. It's something like with the world itself. There's something wrong with my desert, but I don't know what could possibly be creating the lag. I'm hesitant to fly in there because it crashed my game earlier, and I don't want to subject you to that. I'm almost wondering if I should, like, abandon this section of the river for right now, even. But, like, this is some of the stuff I needed to work on. Look at how janky my textures are through this river area. I feel like I need to fix it. But, it's... And I was also hoping to add something into the desert. Because, as I said, it's just basically the default texture. I wasn't sure if I should add a little oasis. I know that in several versions of the Gerudo Desert, there's like a big chasm. There are things I could add in the desert, but I'll admit that that's a lot of... I'm going to put the Gerudo Fortress in there, but otherwise, what do I put in the desert? Probably some fog effect if you go too far to make it a sandstorm and have you disappear, like you do at the edge of the desert in Tears of the Kingdom. Because I don't know what to put there otherwise. But then I want to leave some things open to then put stuff in. That's part of the headache of making something open world, is you kind of have to find stuff to fill things like that with. Otherwise you have the problem of this entire section of the map is useless. So I could put things in the desert. I just don't know what yet. Something else about the world that I'm not sure of, and one of the reasons I wanted to save a copy of the world after I'm done terraining is I had the idea of, for the Nether, I want there to be basically a Dark World sort of section in the story, and I was going to use the Nether for that. But what I wanted to do is take the overworld and splat it directly into the Nether as it is. But I discovered something while trying to experiment with this, and that is that while they raised the world height limit for the overworld, they didn't raise it for the Nether. Which means that all of Death Mountain and all of that stuff is going to be cut off where you reach build height limit really, really fast. And I'm not sure what to do about that. It means all of my dynamic terrain here actually isn't going to work very well. Plus, this world is so huge that, especially with the Nether fog, basically making the Nether fog would make it so that way, well, Daricio says that sucks, no Dark World. Well, that's what I want to talk about. I don't want to remove the Dark World. I want to still keep it in. But, like... You also have to keep in mind that because of Nether fog, it would basically be like turning your chunks down to like 6 or something like that. Imagine trying to navigate this world like this. Be absolutely miserable. Can't see anything. Which is the problem inherent with the Nether. If they didn't have the Nether fog, it would be better, or at least raise the Nether fog distance away from you. That would be better in my opinion, but, so what I'm planning on doing instead is I had the really crappy terrain that I made before it was okay, but, yeah, I'm clicking, nothing's happening. I'm gonna say it's my being too close to my desert. It's causing it to lag and not work right. Train of thought. Choo-choo. So I'm thinking of taking that other terrain that I already made and basically using that as my Nether and hoping that people, it's similar in some instances, enough that you could still have the, there's obviously a Lake Hylia, there's something, Daricio asks if there's a way to turn off nether fog. You can if you have Optifine. It's a mod. If you're using just vanilla, then no, there isn't a way. So, yeah, unfortunately, no, not really. It's one of those things that, yeah, I wish that they made it vanilla where, yeah, you can just turn off the fog, or at least change the render distance on it, but no, you can't. I lost my train of thought again. I'm sorry. I was talking about what I'm planning on doing for the nether. I'm kind of between just taking this landscape that I have and just like chopping off some of the mountains and hoping it works anyway, or taking my old terrain and just using that as the nether instead. So what are your thoughts on that? Or the other solution is I just kind of get rid of my nether, but I was kind of hoping to have the dark world because I thought that would be cool. Inertia Pink is asking if I'm going to do a tutorial on Baroque and Rococo architecture soon. That is going to be my next project. And I have been trying to... I have the problem of I know generally, you know, the details about Baroque and Rococo, but I want to make sure that I know everything before I make a video. Some of it is I always worry that, but it's coming soon. It is going to be my next architecture video, but I have to really do a lot more research on it before I even start building it, and then I have to build it. And, like, I have just sitting here, like, a textbook on architecture sitting next to me, because I do end up doing research on all of my topics that I cover. But sometimes I'm worried. I get a little bit of the, imposter syndrome where I'm kind of waiting for somebody to draw back the curtain and be like, look, Shells doesn't actually know what she's talking about. See, she got this wrong. And I know, again, that's a silly worry, but it is, like, a concern of mine of just that somebody's gonna be like, oh no, Shells doesn't actually know what she's talking about. And even, like, with my Gothic architecture, I didn't learn until after I made my Gothic architecture video that the pointed arch is actually two circles that are converging to make the pointed arch. And so that's how you're supposed to make it. And I didn't learn that until after I made the video, and now I'm just like, oh no, I should have added that, but I didn't know it at the time. And so that's kind of where I have this fear that there's something about Baroque and Rococo architecture that I just don't know yet, and somebody's gonna be like, ha, Shells, you don't know what you're talking about, and I'll be like, yeah, you're right, I don't. But hence all of the research, and then I still need to actually sit down and do the building for it, because I want to make sure, especially with my architecture videos, that a lot of thought gets put into it. I want to make sure the builds look really cool. I want to make sure I have a script written. I want to make sure that you know, all my information is correct. So there's a lot of editing and stuff that needs to go into it. But it is coming next, so it just, with my upload, right, might not come until 6 months from now. I'm sorry. Yeah, there will always be some things that I'll miss with information. You're right, and a lot of it is I should just do it, and I get that. Rococo is fun in particular. It's a bit of a challenge to make in architecture, specifically for the interiors, they purposefully tried to avoid making any 90-degree angles in any of their rooms, so they'll like add like a padding of some sort of roundifying around the edges of the room, because they want to make the ceiling seem like it blends seamlessly. You can't tell where the wall ends and the ceiling begins in a lot of Rococo architecture. The other problem with it is that they tend to basically yes, oh dear, no 90-degree angles in a square game. But, I mean, some of that is pretty easily solved by just shoving stairs in the corners, kind of roundifying the corners a little bit on your builds. But the other problem is that Rococo is like... how do I word this? Basically... the way I view Rococo is it's kind of like they tried to show off their wealth by shoving as much of it as they possibly could in as many details as they possibly could. So you have things like, it's not just, you know, a detail here, a cool arch here, you know, there's your door. It's like everything is gold encrusted with as many teeny tiny little sculptures as they can possibly fit. So, like, the doorknob has an intricate sculpture of an eagle, like, built into it, and it spreads out onto the door that has, like, the whole door is painted and has stuff. It's very, very busy, and trying to put that into Minecraft is very difficult, because you're having to basically finesse all of these itty-bitty details, or you just shove a whole lot of gold in places and make it look kind of busy and messy, and that's Rococo for you, because they liked things being messy and busy and detailed. So there's your little synopsis on that. And so part of me trying to make the build is I have to determine, okay, how much detail is too much detail, what needs to be added, and then that's all of the thought that I have to put into actually making the build. So yeah, it's coming. I still need to do more research, and I still need to actually build it. Any other thoughts or questions for me? Crickets? Oh, my husband just popped in the chat. Hi, Sam! That is something that's been nice for doing videos and stuff, is I have a very tech-savvy husband who helps me do all of the running servers. He helps me set up all of my videos and stuff, is because I always have this worry of like, yeah, I'm very creative, but I'm also not that like tech-savvy or able to do a lot of that kind of stuff, so I tend to leave that up to my husband to do all of the techie stuff side of Minecraft stuff, which is what he does. He's works in IT, so it works for him that he's now my IT person too. So any behind the scenes stuff is usually up to my husband. He's also caring for the kids right at the moment, so these videos would not be made possible without his help, so... Apparently my son says hi. Actually, specifically a heart emoji that's going... Daricio asks, what is the hardest part about making the Gothic architecture videos? Writing a script, trying to think of everything. And again, there were things afterwards that I was like, no, I got it wrong. And then I think the other thing is, I'm not sure if you can tell, but I am very rambly. And I tend to stutter while I'm talking. And this is a problem with any of my videos that I've been making, especially if I haven't made videos in a long time, like right now, is a lot of times I'll just like stutter and trip over my words, and next thing you know I'm having to edit out half of the video because half the video is me going or worse, I'll just like cut off mid-sentence and then just kind of stop and then lose my train of thought and then have to restart my sentence, and I do that like 50 times. So editing out all of my own errors and actually being able to talk straight like a normal person, it's always the worry with all of the live streams as well, is just like I either ramble or I stutter. There is no in between. So you either get all of me talking way too much, or you get me not talking quite right. And I tend to be kind of an awkward person, so that's probably my hardest part about making videos. And a lot of that goes away in my editing, but that's where I can be almost a little bit too persnickety with how much I edit, is because I'll over edit or stuff like that, is because I'm just self-conscious enough about how I sound that sometimes I'm just like, well, I need to completely need to re-record that because I flubbed this word over here. So yeah, a lot of it is the script writing and me actually being able to deliver said script without it sounding awful. Being a little bit lazy with just like putting some of this mud up on the edges, and I think I'm actually going to leave a lot of that because this world is too big for me to care about too fine of details. I am no Scar. I cannot do terraforming, so I will happily build really cool temples and make all of those details matter, but all of this terraforming stuff, yeah, no, this could be better. But I don't know how to do that very well. Sometimes when you make YouTube videos, you almost feel like you need to be good at a little bit of everything. Yeah, real rivers have mud up to the edges anyway, sometimes. Not on every edge, but, you know. But yeah, when you're doing YouTube in particular, you kind of have to feel like you're a bit of a jack of all trades for stuff. And yeah, you have things that you're particularly good at, but I know that even watching, like, in case you can't tell, I watch a lot of hermits, but like seeing how Pearl does things and Tango. Tango is definitely a redstone person, but you see him making more and more complicated builds because he's trying to actually be good at some of those things as well. And then you get Pearlescent Moon, who's really good at building, and suddenly she's learning redstone. Sometimes when you're doing stuff, you kind of feel like you have to be a little good at a little bit of everything. I'm very good at making temples. I'm not very good at building plain houses or doing terraforming, but I can do redstone and command blocks. But I'm also not the best with the redstone and command blocks, so like it's passable skills. But I think definitely building temples is like my main thing that I do. But terraforming is probably where I am the weakest as far as doing Minecraft skills, because I suck at it. Yeah, yeah, again, cathedrals and temples. I'm really great at doing those. And that's what I really enjoy doing, which is why one of the reasons I picked Legend of Zelda is because, hey, it's a whole bunch of temples, and I specifically like doing the fantasy themes for it. I like doing, like, the themed of wind temple. I like doing, here's a water temple, make it water themed, and I like doing a lot of the Zelda-y style temples when I'm building. Doing like I like incorporating real life architecture, but I don't like to take an already existing building and just recreate it in Minecraft. Having said that, I had a blast doing the Parthenon. I almost said Pantheon. Parthenon. I had a blast doing the Parthenon for the Greek architecture video, but honestly, it's not my cup of tea for the most part. I prefer to just do fantasy themes, which is why you got fun things like my forest cathedral, some of my rainbow stained glass, stuff like that. So, that's one of the reasons I'm doing Legend of Zelda, but unfortunately another aspect of Legend of Zelda is being able to explore. Exploration has always been a big part of all of Legend of Zelda games, hence why they decided to make Breath of the Wild be more about exploring the world, and that's probably one of the most Legend of Zelda parts of the game is the exploration side of it, because I know like Ocarina of Time and A Link to the Past was more open world with the big field and stuff because of that. But then what is my weakest part of doing any sort of Minecraft builds? Terrain. So what am I doing? Terrain. I was actually honestly debating, like, spending real money to hire somebody to do what I'm doing right now, which is all of the terrain. I was seriously debating it, because I am so bad with it. And even still, I look at it and there are some parts of my terrain that I'm like, yeah, that turned out pretty well. Like, I like the way Death Mountain looks now. But there are some parts of it I'm just like, this is flat and kind of awkward and not great. Like, the fact that all of my cliffs are rounded to heck, which is why I'm here working on it, trying to, with the hopes of using Axiom to try to fix some of that stuff. But if it turns out that it looks kind of bad at the end, I'm just going to say I'm not a terrain person. I don't build terrain. I don't enjoy building terrain. So yeah, get what you get. But the temples will be pretty. Some of what I have actually got Ari and Soup doing. I mentioned that Ari and Soup are helping with the map here. What they're actually helping with is Ari is really good at doing game design. So in her free time, she likes doing actual coding and stuff. And what she's done is I'm mediocre with command blocks. She is fantastic with command blocks. So she's actually gone in and programmed working hook shots, for instance. She has a working ocarina and system for playing music in the game and having the music have different effects depending on what songs you play. Stuff like that. So that's one of the reasons why Ari's helping, and then what Soup is doing is not only is he actually knows more of Legend of Zelda lore, so I can kind of bounce ideas off of him pretty well, but also he did in his free time he ended up programming Ocarina of Time over again, and what he was mostly in charge of was he did the boss battles and stuff like that. So he's very good at working with entities, working with boss battles. So he offered to help out with some of that stuff. So, but neither of them really do terrain that much, so that's why I'm kind of the two, Ari's probably the best at working with the actual terrain, so she's actually come on here and helped me a little bit with like rivers and stuff, but part of the issue is that you can only really have one person working on world edit at one time in one location. I've seen some servers do it where like you can have multiple people working with the brushes, but when I was trying to do it with Ari, basically she had a brush and suddenly my brushes would stop working because she was using brushes, and so then like I'm not sure why that happened, but it did, so yeah, it was kind of like, do I let Ari do it or do I do it? And I guess I'm just like one who's like, well, it's my map, I want it to look visually a certain way, so I ended up doing it all. And unfortunately that also means that I take forever to do it because I'm, you know, also juggling trying to be a stay-at-home mom at the same time as trying to make YouTube videos. So again, if at the end the terrain is mediocre, that's just how it goes. I'm not a terrain person. I think that's also one of my problems with doing like Axiom and stuff, is just like it's a tool that I am not familiar with, and I feel like lots of other people benefit from it better than I do, because I don't know what I'm doing with it. It doesn't make it a bad tool, it just means I don't know what I'm doing. So it makes me not capable of working with it very well. You know, I'm actually coming to a point where I'm almost done with this river, I think. Although I don't know if I went around the actual right, I think I missed doing the section that goes around the moat for Hyrule Castletown, so I haven't done that bit. What the heck happened to these rapids? Some of the water flowing funny still bothers me, where it's like, this looks terrible. And I don't know how to make my water flow better, because Minecraft water physics is kind of janky. Oh well. Yeah, some of this area it's going to be more rocky, but I'm going to be repainting some of this. So, did I paint this? No, I don't think I painted this. So I need to go through and paint all of these rocks as well. I did promise that I'd mess more with Axiom with you guys, so I think after I'm done with the river, I'm going to take a break from painting. Oops, that was really dark there. It's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna take a break from painting as soon as I'm done with painting this riverbed. And I'm going to start trying to shape more of Zora's Domain, and I'll also trying to clean up some of my cliff edges so they're not quite so rounded in places. That's kind of what I'm going to be doing next. So if you're bored of watching me paint this riverbed endlessly, good news, we're almost done. And then maybe afterwards I can work on actually painting some of these rocks a little bit better. Either that, or I could paint the interior of the volcano. I also need to cover the entire bottom of Lake Hylia with basically mud and black stone and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that. So I need to cover the entire bottom of Lake Hylia with basically mud and black stone and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to make that better, and then I can add like seaweed and stuff like that, to stuff like that, but I'll admit I haven't put a lot of thought to how the bottom of this is going to look, and it's really, really hard to paint with the water, because when I'm painting on here, the paintbrush is actually hitting the water and making a sphere around the surface, which is why you'll notice that it gets to a certain point and then just stops and doesn't paint anymore in elevation, and it's just because it's hitting the water. So I'm not sure. I might just select the whole thing and be like, alright, now this is change the stone into mud and black stone. And that might just be how that goes. Any other thoughts for me? Any other topics I can ramble about for you? I do want to reiterate, I'm really, really glad that at how many people have shown up. Currently I've got 9 people, so considering I had like 9 people upvote my the post I made telling people I was live streaming, I'm actually quite happy. This is better than 0, which is what I was worried I was gonna get. So, listen to any cool music recently? Well, my playlist tends to be kind of stagnant a little bit, I will admit. I'll add music to my playlist if I happen to hear something cool, then I'll add it. But otherwise, my playlist is basically the same songs that I've been listening to since I was a kid. Evolved with like I played the game Rock Band for a while. Suddenly, poof, a bunch of Rock Band songs got added to my playlist. Stuff like that. So I'll add to my playlist, but I don't tend to go out of my way to listen to new stuff. And I'm weird anyway, because I grew up, my parents would play 70s and 80s music all the time, like best of hit CDs, and so a lot of the songs I listen to are 70s and 80s music. My favorite band is Kansas right at the moment. Well, I say right at the moment, but it's been my favorite band since I was in high school, so but so I don't tend to like stay up with music trends. The main thing, other thing I've been listening to a lot is my son is not the most musical person, so he doesn't like listening to music in the car, except for because he's such a Legend of Zelda fan. We listen to a lot of Legend of Zelda orchestrated music, which is just as well, because, you know, I like that kind of music as well. I used to play in band and orchestra. Well, band, I wasn't in orchestra. So I like that kind of stuff too, so that's I either go to my basic playlist that's 70s and 80s music plus whatever else I've added to it. You know, Imagine Dragons is not 70s and 80s music, but that's on my playlist because I like it. And then you get orchestrated Legend of Zelda music or other video game music. I've got like Hollow Knight music on there, and Ori and the Will-O-Wisps music on there, stuff like that. Video games that I've played and gone, that's some pretty neat music, and then poof, I'll add it to my music list that I listen to in the car. Sorry, I'm not the most musically savvy, but Daricio asks, what is my favorite Legend of Zelda game? That one is pretty tricky, because I would probably say Majora's Mask, but up there is probably Ocarina of Time and Twilight Princess. Those are my 3 favorites. Wind Waker's alright, but I kind of like the darker, well, because I like the lore, but I like the darker themes for Legend of Zelda games. which is why I'm a big fan of Twilight Princess. I'm a big fan of Majora's Mask. And then Ocarina of Time is just a classic that will always go down as, like, one of my favorites. So, yeah. I like A Link to the Past alright too, but, I'm bad at it. It's a very difficult game. That was one that I actually tried to play for my son to, you know, show him, ooh, this is A Link to the Past. It's also a Legend of Zelda game. And he got sick of watching me die over and over again. And so we had to stop playing A Link to the Past just because I was dying so often that he was just like, Mommy, I don't like watching you die. I was like, thanks. I don't like dying. And I think I got stuck in one of the temples too, and it's that one's hard. I guess I'm not that pro of gamer, so yeah, probably I would say my absolute favorite would have to be Majora's Mask. It's you know, kind of, it's gone down in history as one of the fever dreams of Zelda games just because of how bizarre it is, but I like the darker bizarreness. I like that it covers, you know, people have made theses and theories about it being about grief, you know, the different stages of grief and stuff like that, and yeah, you basically watch people die in the game. And then I like the aspect of the time. I know some people don't like the fact that you're constantly having to battle the time limit on there, but I think it adds a certain amount of tension to the game. I like that you have people who feel like NPCs that feel like people. Even in Tears of the Kingdom and Breath of the Wild, it got to the point where it was just like, okay, you're just a random stable person. Okay, you're a random Zora. And you have some characters in there, but like with Majora's Mask, because everybody had not just their own location where they hung out at and they had their own quests, lines and stuff like that, they also had routines. They walked around and did things every day. I thought it was kind of entertaining seeing, like, for instance, Anju, you know, the big Anju and Cafe quest that goes on. If you follow Anju around, yeah, she hangs out at the inn for the most part, but on day 2, she just, like, randomly takes a walk to, and it starts raining, so she pulls out an umbrella, and it's just little things like that where it's like, yeah, this feels like an actual town. It was a very small town, but so that's probably my favorite game overall. It has the best characters, it has the best feel to it, some really intricate lore as well, so yeah, definitely Majora's Mask takes the cake for me. I'm gonna go back and paint all these rocks. Why am I painting them with the bottom of my river tones? That's not what I need to do with it. And yet I'm still doing it. I'll paint it later. It'll be fine. Yeah, I'm coming to the problem of this water is killing me here. I'm thinking of just selecting all of the water and making it the darkest tones, which is just basically black stone and mud, I think. Right? Yeah. Yes. At some point I'll add vegetation to it as well, but I feel like that's not something that I need done today necessarily. The main thing is I want to get this to a point where I can save the world, potentially use it in my nether. I don't know if I'll be able to, and then I can start adding in my buildings and the vegetation on top of it. I thought about doing a Zora's Domain video next for doing Legend of Zelda stuff, well, Legend of Alex stuff, just because I was doing that water experiment, and so that's, you know, trying to incorporate that, which, by the way, an update on that water experiment, I managed to pare back the amount of minecarts it's using. It's no longer using 500 entities to make my cool water effect. I managed to pare it down to 50 minecarts, and I'm so proud of that, and I think that'll make it actually usable. So, happy about that. Oh, my husband posted something and then immediately retracted it. Daricio, what are you saying? Sorry, reading chat. Oh, reading the manga for the Legend of Zelda series. The Ocarina of Time manga was okay. I didn't like the Majora's Mask manga. I think the person who did the artwork did some fantastic artwork for it. So I like the art in the manga, but some of the story that they did for and I think what it is pacing. Pacing in those is awful, and the Majora's Mask one, it's like they touched on all of the major events, but they skip all of Stone Tower, and they like brush past a lot of stuff. It's kind of like they were like, hey, we have to fit this entire game into this many pages, do it. And the artist was like, oh, huh, well what should have been like 50 manga, maybe not 50, but you know, a number of mangas got condensed into a single manga, and it shows where it's just like, and now we're doing this, 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 and it was like, ah, and the manga's over, ta-da! Oh, my husband is pointing out for music stuff, we did listen to a really neat symphony recently. So here's a new thing to talk about. My brother is actually a composer. He went to school and got his doctorates in music composition, and he writes full-on symphonies that are performed by professional bands. And one of those bands was actually the symphony orchestra at one of the universities that was maybe like a 3-hour drive from where I live, and so we actually went down and listened to my brother's symphony. So I'm gonna put in a plug for if you ever want to listen to something different, new and different. My brother is David A. Jones, and he has his own YouTube channel. Maybe I'll put it in. Well, I'll put it in the description for when I actually post the VODs for this. So he does, his symphony that he wrote was talking about a bunch of Filipino lore, like some of the like, we have fairies and dragons, whatever, and vampires and stuff, that kind of lore, that's Western lore. Well, they have their own, basically, equivalents. Well, not equivalents, it's their own things that they do for, from the Philippines, and, so that was what David did for his, symphony. So the first, I don't even remember, they're all in Tagalog, so I don't remember all of the names, of the different creatures. But like the first one was basically a witch who casts curses on people. The second one is probably my favorite movement of the symphony. was basically a goblin thing, a house goblin, steals your stuff, ties your shoes together, that kind of thing. And so that one was a fun piece. Daricio, you only remember Aswang because that was all that was played for his dissertation when he graduated from BYUI. So because the other pieces that he wrote for the symphony were too difficult for the for the band, the orchestra at BYUI to play, basically. But he found a professional symphony orchestra that was able to play the entirety of it, of the symphony, and so, yeah, the second movement is probably my favorite just because it's so quirky and weird. I will say though that sometimes it feels like the music that my brother writes is like designed for horror films, is what I like to tell people sometimes, because some of it is it's not something you just, you know, listen to in your free time. It's like you're anticipating some sort of film or action scene going on with this music that he writes. So if you do go and watch it, or listen to it, be prepared for that. But it's then the third movement was basically a fairy druid thing, kind of creature. But then the last one is Aswang, which is kind of like a vampire thing. It disguises itself as like an old lady or an old man, but then at night it'll split off from you know, split in half for some reason, is very in gory manner, and then grow wings and it goes and eats people. Yeah, those were so if you're ever wanting to listen to something new, that's the kind of stuff my brother writes, and we've just recently went and saw that the full symphony that he did for that. So yeah. Any other questions for me? No questions? Okay. What else can I ramble about while I continue to paint the edges of Lake Hylia? Thoughts on the new Minecraft update? I am really excited for the happy gas. I think they look derpy, but that's kind of cute in a way. But I think the main thing about it is you can actually have, because currently in order to get anywhere you have to build tons and tons of scaffolding, and it becomes building anything in survival an absolute chore. And I'll admit that's probably one of the reasons why I stopped playing survival, not only with the, you know, you're slowed down not only by having to collect resources, but also you're slowed down because you can't build anything freely in the air, because you have to build a whole ton of scaffolding just to build anything. So the inclusion of happy gas, which let you be able to have, and I like that it's not just creative mode, I can fly and be exactly where I need to be. It has an actual mechanic that allows it, that feels legitimate. You have to still earn it. Honestly, thrilled to pieces over that. To be able to have that. And then the other thing is you can, because it's an entity that you can mess with, you can also do cool things like elevators. One of the trends that people have been doing in the Minecraft community recently has been basically animating things and creating more movement in the game. And I think people are doing that now more than ever, and the happy gas actually helps with that, because you could basically put it on a lead and have it integrated into a build as an elevator that actually moves up and down. You can move other entities with it. Yeah, there's just beyond flying machines. In the past it was just flying machines, which always felt clunky to me. Clunky and kind of slow. With some, you have to understand some really bizarre, obscure redstone mechanics in order to make it work. Not even redstone, just like trying to mess with the block limits on like slime blocks and honey blocks. It was always a pain. I never touched flying machines because I just found them to be too annoying to deal with. So really, really excited for the new Minecraft update for that reason. I'm not sure, and I know this is all in the stuff that's already released, I'm not sure how I feel about the different chickens laying different eggs. I like having more variety in the mobs, but I wish some of that had just been subtle changes in, I know there's some mods that'll do it for you where the mobs will have a chance to spawn a slightly different color, so that way they don't just look like all the exact same mob. So I think having the area specific mobs is a step in the right direction for some of that. But I'm not sure how I feel about making it so that way the chickens all lay different colors of eggs. I know that that's something that's like, yeah, chickens will lay different colors of eggs in real life, but like, the game really struggles with trying to manage inventory as it is, and they basically added a whole bunch of new items that are just different colors of eggs, and they don't really do anything else. So I'm not a big fan of that aspect, and that's not in the new upcoming update though. Other aspects I'm really excited for is they've been doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff for command blocks. And I know Ari has been so thrilled that it's actually going to make making this map a lot easier, because the command blocks are getting more friendly with how you can actually modify things and change things. There's more versatility in command blocks. So I'm really excited for all of that stuff. Honestly, I just like Minecraft continually getting upgrades and getting better and better. Just in general. I like having more blocks to work with. I like having new things. The more they add to the game, the more creativity people can have. What I'm really hoping for, though, is some vertical slabs, and I'm really hoping that the lighting gets a little bit overhauled, because right now, what I want is like different colors of lights. I know they're kind of adding some of that, and I think that that's in a step in a right direction, but I think that one was like bedrock only or something like that. I don't know all the details. I get updates from Exuma Void that I watch about the new snapshots and stuff, and that's like where I get most of my Minecraft news. Yeah, I like all of the updates. I think that everything they add to the game is just adding so much. I really like the direction Mojang goes with a lot of it, and I think it helps make the Minecraft world ever-changing, and I think that's a good thing, because then it means that you have a reason to come back and find new ideas, and it helps the game evolve. What I really struggle with is I don't think I could ever go back to playing in earlier versions. I know Ari likes to occasionally play in, like, you know, she's suddenly playing in 1.8 or something like that, and she thinks it's fun because it's a challenge to try to do some of the things that we've learned over the years in some of the older versions of Minecraft. But me, I can't do it. I get to the point where I'm like, where's my mangrove blocks? Where's this block? No! I honestly had a bit of that even when I went from, I played with mods for a little while, on doing Minecraft. I was doing modded Minecraft, and there's a couple times where I'm just like, man, I kind of wish I had this specific block from this mod. So I in particular, examples would be like the brass block in Create mod is like really pretty. And then what other mods am I thinking of? There's one that changed a bunch of the biomes and made biomes look cooler, or they added new biomes, I guess. And there were a couple of sand blocks that were just absolutely gorgeous. I know a lot of people swear by using chiseled for stuff, and yeah, and then getting vertical slabs. So actually going from modded back to vanilla can be kind of rough sometimes. I think that's part of the reason why I actually just kind of stick with vanilla for the most part now, is because I'm just like, okay, I'm going to stick with what is possible in the game as it is, and wait for them to do stuff, because, you know, there are endless possibilities, and I actually like what Mojang does, so, and plus I don't like keeping up with trying to make all of the mobs updated regularly. Oh, the colored light is bedrock only, but with the new lighting update it'll be able to do it with texture packs. Yeah, I think, thanks, Shaw. I think that, I am excited for what they're doing with basically making an in-game shader pack for the next update. My one complaint so far is about the new shader update is the water, for some reason, really bothers me. They made an animation that is kind of trying to mimic light reflecting on the bottoms of the bottom blocks for the water. And it's a little bit too shiny right now, and so it draws your attention too much to it, and it's also really pixelated looking, which I get that they're trying to find a nice balance between, they don't want it to be hyper realistic, they're wanting it to still feel like Minecraft, which is why they've pixelated a lot of things, and for the most part I'm fine with that, but the way they did the water kind of bothers me. But otherwise, honestly, I think that's a brilliant idea. People use shaders all the time, so then having an actual in-game, part of the actual fundamental vanilla parts of Minecraft being a shader pack that you can pick from is really brilliant. What else is being added to the new update? I'm honestly not entirely sure. I've been watching Exuma videos and I'm pulling a blank as to what else is being added. Yeah, I feel like most of the things I'm excited for is stuff like that they're adding to the command block, some of the NBT data, stuff like that. I know they've made it so that way you can basically create quest markers on a compass. It started out as a feature that was like, why are they adding that, where you can basically see where other players are, which, now that I have a kid who plays Minecraft and he continually loses where I am, I go, oh, that's why they're adding it. So I can see that, but then they also made it so that way you can set it to be like quest markers for map making. It's like, oh, yes! Oh, they updated leads. Yeah. I do like the changes that they made to leads, that they aren't, that they're thicker, they appear thicker. Something I still wish that they would do is let me attach a lead from a fence post to another fence post. Please and thank you. That would be one thing that I would like to see happen with leads, just because then you can actually, I know people do things where they hide mobs that the leads are then attached to then create some of the aesthetic things that you can do with leads, but like being able to basically make what looks like a string leading from one spot to another would be so cool. You could do so many cool things with that in builds and in detail work and stuff. And they clearly, you can do it. You can put leads on a fence post, but only one fence post. Can I put one from one fence post to the other, please? That'd be great. I'd love that. Again, a lot of that stuff, it's like, it feels like it's in the right direction. Mojang knows what they're doing, and so I'm really happy with what they do for the most part. And I will continue to look forward to what they come up with to do in the future. I'm gonna take a drink here. I've been talking a lot. Oh, something I wanted to talk a little bit with you guys about. I made a post about this and I got like really positive feedback, and then I never did anything about it. Or rather, I did stuff about it and then it quietly died and never got posted. And that is, I was going to do a Let's Play on Echoes of Wisdom. I started basically doing a playthrough where it was me playing through the game, and I was commentating on it, and I asked people if they wanted me to do, to actually upload it. Unfortunately, the problem, like the first episode, perfectly fine. I managed to record while all of the kiddos were asleep, so I was, you know, not having any interruptions. But then from then on, I had like 2 episodes where I tried playing with my baby in the background, and she started fussing and crying and like making all sorts of noise. And so I have like 3 episodes recorded. That was me doing the first 3 dungeons of Echoes of Wisdom, and I didn't post any of them because I'm worried that like people don't want to watch videos with fussy crying baby in the background, and I thought about like editing out the worst of it, but I've been avoiding playing Echoes of Wisdom because I wanted to record it, and I'm just like at this funk of, do I still try to edit it and post it anyway? And so that's kind of what I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on. Is it worth salvaging? I've been tempted to just like restart and like from the second dungeon and do it over again, just because of how noisy my baby was during the actual editing. So I don't know, would you guys still watch it, or should I just re-record it, or should I just not bother and just happily play Echoes of Wisdom in my own free time? What do you guys think? Crickets. Oh. Well, I have one person who said that they'll watch it. Yeah, I should probably just do that. Again, I have 3 episodes. I didn't bother editing it yet. I'm partially worried that it's unusable material, but I haven't actually, like, watched it back at all yet. I just know that while I was recording it, my baby was just like, no, you don't get to record now. I'm going to fuss at you and cry at you the whole way through. it does mean that there will be but between episode 3 and 4, because I haven't made episode 4, it's like a several month gap, and I'll be like, alright, now I have to completely relearn how to do all of these mechanics. I think part of the reason why I was really excited is because, like, my Legend of Zelda skin here, this my Minecraft skin, it's like, Zelda seems to be my other go-to game, and so then playing as Zelda was really exciting for me. So I do want to do it. I'm still kind of tempted to just like re-record the second and third dungeon and then try to do the rest of it. Would you guys care if I re-recorded bits, or do you want it to be my first playthrough of it? Feels more true to the Let's Play if I just basically use what I've already got. Maybe I'll put a little thing that's just like, you'll have to apologize to any sudden cuts because I had to cut out an awful lot of my baby screaming at me. Sorry. I think it also comes down to me feeling self-conscious again, because I'm just like, but I'm not very good at commentating. So some of the reason for, yeah, it feels more true to just do the first playthrough. Yeah, I think it'll just have to be massively edited, where I'm just like, yeah, I had this entire section here. You'll just have to bear with it because with it being missing because I had a screamy baby through it. Because nobody wants to hear baby screamy. And boy can she scream. I'm always torn between, do I add in some of the cute noises that she makes because she can be very cute, or do I just, you know, be conscientious and try to edit it all out. I don't know. I think some of the issue is that, like, I have what's called a Velcro baby, where she's very attached to me to the point where if even my husband or my son come and give me a hug, she starts getting fussy and upset because somebody else is hugging mom. And that kind of thing. So, and some of it is if I'm trying to play a game or something like that, anything that isn't watching her, it very quickly turns into, oh no, mom, how dare you do something other than watch me. And so I tend to get a lot of the worst of her fussing when I'm specifically trying to game. And so, like, if she'll be perfectly fine and content, and I'll be like, yes, I can pull out Minecraft, or I can pull up, now I can actually record for a bit, and then she's just like, what? You're doing something other than play with me? No, how dare you? And then suddenly she goes from being perfectly content and happy to, rah! Like, darn you. Yeah, that's the other thing, Darius suggesting, well, you could always just, you know, put yourself on mute and just play even, you know, in silence for a bit with just the music, and I'm just like, yeah, but that kind of defeats the purpose of doing a Let's Play, is you're supposed to listen to me have my thoughts and stuff. And I've thought about, like, going in with the editing and just, like, editing out the bits, some of the bits where by just, like, basically putting the background music over the top of Screamy Baby so you can still watch me play, but just with no sound, for a bit. I don't know. That could be something that I end up doing. It's hard to line up the music with where I was, though, so there would be some weird, like, there's obviously a point where this got edited and music just got added over the top, but, again, I think I'll just have to put a warning at the beginning of the episode and just be like, look, I had to do some really heavy editing in order to make this function, because I tried to do this with my child in the room, and that was a bad idea. It's honestly been another reason that I've been hesitant to do more, like, recording stuff with you. I actually moved a lot of my recording stuff out into my living room. I have a separate mic stand I set up out there. I have a computer that is streaming my computer onto my big screen TV with a separate keyboard and mouse, so that way I could play out there while baby is napping in her crib, which you can see back there. That's baby's crib back there with the blankets on it. So that way I could still play and record while she's napping. But some of the issues I've run into is the fact that all of my walls are paper thin, and even while recording, not in the same room as her hearing my talking in the other room was actually waking her up from naps. So I'd be like, yes, time to record, sit down to record, and then almost immediately, well, never mind, turn off all the recording stuff, shut down computer, go grab baby. Part of me's hoping that she'll get better at napping, and at some point, but yeah, I have the darndest time trying to find time to record. That's why I had my husband take all of my children out of the room for doing this live stream, is because I know that if he didn't have them, like, even if he has them in the other room, he actually took them on a little outing, so they're not in the house. Even if they were in the other room, a lot of times it's just like, they want mom, and so it would be very difficult to try to do any sort of recording while children are home. And don't get me wrong, I love my children very, very much. They just make life hard sometimes. And I've run out of things to say and talk about again. Well, here we are again. It's always such a pleasure. Just, you know, start randomly singing songs. I'm sure that's what you want to listen to. Then I'd get demonetized. And people would leave the viewership pretty quick there, I think. Questions? Any questions for me again? Nope, we got crickets in the chat. What else should I talk about then? You know, I said I was almost done with the river, but that was like almost an hour ago. I'm still working on this river. I think that's where I left off on it. I think this is the last stretch. We're almost there, guys. And then I can actually start working on Axiom and talking about it. Ooh, a thunderstorm just went off outside. Oh, Daricio is asking about my painting in real life stuff. So, that is something I can talk about. For those of you who don't know, I am actually an artist. I went to school for doing art as an art major, and specifically I like to do traditional mediums, and painting is like my specialty. My main medium is acrylic paints, and I've actually restarted doing painting just recently, and something that I've been trying to do with my paintings is, because I don't have the time to sit down and make really big paintings a lot, what I've been doing instead is I've been making mini paintings. So I use acrylic paints, and I bought like 100 canvases that are this big. They are like 2.5 inches by 3 inches, and I've been painting them in the hopes that what I can do is try to sell some of it at like craft shows and stuff like that. I've tried selling my art in the past, and I haven't had the most success, and I think some of the problem is that you have to find, yep, we finished the river! You have to find people who are, have room in their homes and are art collectors, and who are willing to spend a pretty penny for your paintings in order to make it worth your while. And very rarely do those stars align. So a lot of times you should spend money to put your art into a show. You put all of your best stuff on display. You have prints on display even of stuff, and people come in and they go, "Wow, that's really pretty. You're very good." And then they turn and walk away, and you never see them again. And you know, that's great, but after going to, you know, putting yourself out there, your own artistic stuff out there, it can be kind of disheartening to have people turn away from that. So what I'm trying to do is basically create something that is smaller, which means that I can sell it for cheaper as well, but still looks professional, is still skilled enough that it shows off my skills as an artist. And you know, that way I can, I don't know, and it's something that I can sit down in an evening and make a single painting, whereas with some of my larger scale stuff, it takes me sometimes years to make a single painting. You know, I just recently finished one that was one that had been sitting in, like, basically for the past 6 or 7 years, and I finally went, you know what, I'm gonna finish this thing. So I've been doing a lot of painting recently, not just with mini paintings, but also finishing up some of my old works. So yeah, I don't exactly have a way to show it to you right here. For one thing, I actually submitted some of my mini paintings to there was a show going on at the local cultural center that was a mini craft show, so I actually made it into an art gallery finally, but they're mini paintings. And so yeah, I actually submitted a bunch of my mini paintings. They're actually on display right at the moment, so happy about that. But I don't know, I could bring out my big fairy painting I finished the other day, but I don't know if you guys want to even care to see some of my IRL paintings that I do. And my it seems as though my viewership has dropped to like 4 people who are watching, and I suspect that's like my husband, my sister, and some of my friends. I don't know. Yeah, that's fine. Um, I'm going to go ahead and move on here to trying to work with Axiom to actually make some of Zora's domain. So now I have actually in-game stuff to talk about now. I think the main thing I want to cover with Zora's domain is I wanted there to be a lower basin, and then I wanted there to be the basically Zora's fountain or the throne room area. And I've been kind of struggling with this because I wanted to make a walkway up. So I'm actually going to go into Axiom and first, I'm doing things wrong. Stop, no, stop. How do I cancel? Stop. No? No. Whoa. Yeah, I don't know how to work this. But if I hit shift, I know this part, if I hit right shift, then I end up in this mode. And I was showing this off earlier in this stream, but what I really want to do is I want to make a more gradual slope down here because I was getting this really choppy stuff. So what I'm going to do is use this slope tool. And what I can do is I can select the top and the bottom, and whoop, that didn't work. Why didn't that work? Hang on. Top, and then the bottom. It's still not working. Why isn't it doing what I wanted it to? Top. Is it because there's something up above? Bottom. Oh, no, it's working. I'm just oblivious. But basically, smooth out this entire ramp to make it more even. It's kind of what I'm hoping to do here. Oh, something bad happened over here. Is there a way to not have it try to raise up from the ground? I guess the problem is it's using a raise for the mode. Here, we're gonna undo. Actually, I'm just gonna step back all of these because I don't think I've done anything in Axiom yet that I've actually wanted to keep. What are these modes? Raise and lower. If I do that, and I go here to here. Okay, yeah, so that is kind of building up a full wall there. I'm not sure how I feel about that. I don't like the fact that it's lowering that, so I might turn this off. I don't love this. How do I get it so that way it only sort of does that? I want it to just raise. Maybe... do I turn down the smoothing? But I think I want it to be smooth. Is it because of this? Maybe if I do one of these other options, the fall off on it, if I just have it kind of, oops, right, I need to click again. It's still trying to drag up from the bottom. I think that's the main part I wanted to get up here. Now I feel like I need to go in and delete some of that stuff down below though. And then I'd kind of like to flatten this a little bit, radius down, kind of bring that out, because I want there to be like a platform up here. And now, see, this is my problem, is I build up a platform and then suddenly it screws up my slope again. So maybe I need to establish my platform first and then slope it down. So I kind of want this platform to kind of come up here. And I was... You can tell I'm not used to working with Axiom. I did want this to be relatively deep, so I like that part of that, because Zora's fountain goes fairly deep, but I wanted there to be more of a platform to stand on up here, and then maybe even have it come down a little bit. So we're gonna go back to slope tool, and we're gonna have this go back to maybe that. If I start here, kind of slope it up here a little bit, that feels a bit better. I think the problem here is that I wanted this to be a waterfall right there. So maybe I actually have this too high in elevation right at the moment, because I need this to drop off nicely. That level, if I follow it, that's where I want the main water to be, is probably on that, so follow that around. That Y level is where the water is going to begin, so if I raise this up too much, it won't make a waterfall. But so maybe I need to actually lower the elevation a little bit. So we're gonna make it a flatten down, maybe? Does that do it? Yeah, kind of. Here's the problem here, is I'm running into this platform here. So maybe I need to actually flatten this area up here a little bit. Not have it come up quite so high, because it doesn't need to be that high. But I wanted this to be a little bit more gradual, is part of the issue. How do I do that? This is where I need somebody who knows how to work with Axiom come into the chat and really help me here. What does the smooth do for me? It smooths it. Okay, so this is kind of like the using the B-ball, the blender ball in Voxel Sniper. That's what it looks like. So I can blend away some of those imperfections. Part of my problem is I'm like habitually like, oh, that's a straight edge, gotta round it out, and then and then I wonder why all of my cliffs are super rounded at the end. I still feel like I want this to be more of like a gradual slope. I almost feel like I want the shape to be a little bit more... I don't want it to just be like straight down. I want it to kind of curve up into it a little bit. Which I think is why this one worked alright. Do a cone, apparently. Let me try doing just here to here. Oops, I can screw that up. I I do want that to be more of like a solid platform there. Oh, whoa, that's building up quite the wall down there. Is there any way to avoid it doing that? Because I like having it be concave there. I'm gonna guess that the people in the chat are not people who work with Axiom, because I'm not getting any suggestions here. I don't actually know how to do this, which is where I was hoping. Why is my camera like far down? Oh, it's because I'm leaning forward, not because the camera's off. Oops. Sorry, I gotta stop leaning, staring intently at the screen, so then I come out of view. Yep, chat says, nope, no idea how to make this smooth. Darn, I was hoping to use you and your expertise. If I just do little patches at a time, I wonder if that would be better than doing it all at once. It would also help if I was starting not at the top of it, the highest point, kind of. Well, that didn't do much of, at all for me. Ooh, I can make it go up here. Blah, 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 blah. Sorry, I couldn't resist. Yeah. Some of it, what I'm hoping to do with the flatten tool is if I can figure out how to make things look more perfectly flat, and then maybe I'll be able to pinch up some of my cliff sides. Maybe I should try doing that right at the moment instead of doing this, but I feel like here, at least I can ebb away some of this, but I did want a platform here, so what I should do is, instead of flatten down, well, no, I'll do the flatten down, but like flatten away some of this. Oh, come on. Go shove it. Oh, I see what it's doing. It's taking off my point. It is kind of annoying that I think what I was hoping to do with this, as I wasn't wanting it to affect any of the upper bits. I want it to be able to be more like a smaller tool like that. Is there any way? Melt? What does melt do? That kind of does what I want. Is there any way to make it so that way it flattens instead of... So if I make it a little cylinder, and it still cuts into the ground. I don't want it to cut into the ground. That's not what I want you to do. It's kind of what I want, except not really. I think one of the problems I've been facing with a lot of the tools is that it kind of feels like a lot of the tools are what I would consider an additive medium, where you have to add blocks in order to create your shape, and it's very hard to shove in blocks, delete blocks to really form your shapes. I was kind of hoping to be able to do more of that, because you can add blocks really easily to make your shapes using this. But trying to delete blocks is kind of a pain in the butt. And I'm not really sure how to go about fixing that. See, it's trying to affect up there for my flatten tool. I don't want it to affect up there. Just want it to affect down here. I was kind of hoping that Axiom would be able to do that for me a little bit easier. What does distort do? Well, it adds noise, of course. That's exactly what you would expect distort to do. Unless I tell it to not add noise. It's the randomized seed. Can I turn off the noise? No. No, I cannot. Okay. What does that do? Looks complicated. Noise painter. That doesn't sound good. Freehand draw. What I'm really worried is I could actually set this to air, and then I could just like draw in blobs of air. I suppose I could kind of use that to delete stuff, but I'm not sure if that's what I want to do with it. Is this what the Y limit option is for? You know, that's a good point. This is why I have you chat, because you're smarter than I am. Y limit 64. Yee! Ha! Thank you. Thank you so much, Retronaut. That's helpful. Haha. See, this is why I wanted to do it with you guys, because I think I would probably just spend forever just staring at it going, I don't know what I'm doing. So, now I have help. Not sure. I kind of want to smooth out this area, but I don't want to flatten it horribly much. Would this apply to the flatten tool? Could I make it so that way I can affect the rate and turn it down, so then maybe it doesn't quite spam it as much. So maybe if that's maybe a little bit too low, but I could do something like, or like that. Oh, it's grabbing something on that wall. Well, that's what the smooth tool's for, right? Yeah. Yeah, much better. So what I should do is I should actually, like, hey, there, fill that in. Thanks. I almost feel like I need more of a slope here too. So I could like grab the slope tool and I could maybe have it curve like that for this. Ooh, pretty. Yeah. I like this slope tool. There. Just to make it a little bit more roundy. I did get a text. I'm going to really quickly look at it. Hang on. Oh, nope, not important. I have to check my messages just in case my husband's like, hey, we gotta come home with the kids. So. Yeah, so I'm hoping I can use some of that flatten tool on the cliffs. And in fact, what I'm going to do, we're going to turn up my speed so that way I can speed through my map here. More speed! More speed! Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong thing. Whoops, I did something I didn't mean to. I keep clicking to look around with the wrong thing and then, yeah. But I'm wanting to look at some of these cliff sides, which are a little bit too smooth. And can I make them a little bit sharper? that's what I'm looking to maybe do for some of this. If I were to grab my elevation and I say flatten up, I guess, and maybe make it more of that shape, or should I do that for the tops and then do that shape for the bottom, I guess? Increase the size of my brush. I am doing it again, clicking the wrong buttons. And I could maybe sharpen out some of these cliffs a little bit more. Because then see if I do a flatten down and then do that shape from here, I can cut into that and really make that more of an actual like cliff instead of a roundy thing. I think that's what I want to do, because if you look, that looks a lot more like a cliff than it did before. Problem is that there's an awful lot of cliffs that I would love to do that with, and have I mentioned I'm bad at doing terrain? I kind of like that it kind of shows you what areas are being affected. Not sure why it isn't fully affecting some of that. Should I just keep that? Oh, that might be what my problem is. So I just leave it the fall off like that. It's really killing a lot of my grass, but I'm hoping that it grows back and doesn't cause too much of an issue. But yeah, that's kind of something I want to go around, is just kind of clean up some of these cliffs to make them a little bit more defined than what they are now. And some slopes are still fine, but I just need a little bit more. And I don't know how to like make that more gradual unless I just do a whole bunch of the slope tool on it. So just like do that. That one I think has the issues because again I'm doing the fall off weird on it. It's doing that. Whoops! Aha! What have I done? Okay. There we go. Great. More of a gradual little hillside there. Part of the problem with that is I almost feel like you guys don't want to sit here and watch me play with every little tiny hillside doing this. This seems like one of those things that Shells does in her free time. Sort of thing, and maybe not on a live stream. What do you guys think? And yeah, that's kind of what this live stream was for, was finagling little tiny details like that. That's fine, but let's see here. Let me go back here. These cliffs in particular, I really don't like how... I mean, that is fair. We do have hermits that are just doing live streams of them farming materials, so that's fair. I might have to do multiple live streams of just me working on these cliffs, because it's going to take forever. Oh my gosh, I just now realized that everything is dark in my room because it's started storming outside. I am so sorry for the awful lighting. I have lights. I just have to actually adjust them a little bit. Sorry. So sorry for being a ghosty in the dark, dark room. This is my problem, is I'm not paying attention all the time to everything, so, Alright. So like this. This could be more defined as... Oh, I'm on slope tool. No, no, go away. Ooh, spooky, yeah. Oops. Beest thou a cliff? And then if I maybe do just like what happens if I just do a general flatten tool so that way I can flatten up and down? Then you get weird things that it hacks off. Never mind. Just have to flip between the modes depending on what I'm doing. Flatten up for making this more defined on the top. And then flatten down from down here. Ah! Well, would you look at that? I made a cave. That didn't work. Why didn't you work? Is it just because it's hollow right there? I'm making matters worse. Yeah, if I click down here, cut into that. Oh, it might be because I changed my Y limit. Hang on, let me put that back up. There we go. And of course things like this where the texture underneath it that I spent so long meticulously painting is all completely messed up now. And I kind of anticipated that, but what I can do is then go back through and repaint it. So that's kind of why I'm doing this now, and then I can go into painting rocks mode, and then... So... Yay! Cliff making. So we can do another flatten up and make more defined cliffs along here. And again, some of these slopes are okay, but I just need more cliffiness to some of these areas. I was rounding them way, way too much in some regards. I think some of the problem was I was having troubles defining where's grass and where do I paint grass and where do I paint rocks? And now I can see, hey, I probably could have put more rock up there, but that's because I made a rock there, so it's more of an actual cliff design. And some little pits and stuff like that will be fine, especially since I have to draw like an invisible line. All of this stuff from about here on is going to be cut off by a world border. So it's more for me than anything else, but even just, let's take this brush and go down. We can kind of, see, we're on flatten down mode and really just clean that up to make it more defined as this is its own little shelf on this rock. I like that this one is more defined like that, but some of these were a little bit too not so much. And then there's spots like this that's almost a little bit messy, so then we can go with our slope tool and go just a little bit more of a actual solid slope going up there. Probably could have brought that more down along here. Ooh, yeah. Fill it in back there. Cool. Ah! Why is it not pretty there? That's fine. That one's a little bit... yeah. I will say, getting used to Axiom here, it seems a lot better of a tool than just trying to... I always feel like I have to fight World Edit to make it do what I want it to do sometimes for building terrain. And this one, yeah, there's a lot of tools that I'm having to constantly change between, but I feel a little bit better about working with it than not. What am I doing now? Flatten down. That's probably the problem. Come on. And then I can come through and just be like, smooth. Smooth means make those lumpy things go away. Go away if I. I also like that it lags a lot less. Anytime I was working with big sections in World Edit, it was just like, I can't do it, why? And so being able to do that is better. I might turn on a light behind me. It still feels really, really dark in here. Hang on just a second. Let there be light. Ha! Ha! I'm not in shadows anymore. Hooray! Alright, what tool am I using? I want to get rid of that hole. Does smooth work on it? Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, okay. Cool. So yeah, this is more of what I wanted to do with you guys, is just like finesse some of these cliff sides. And the hope, I suppose, is that it'll look good enough that it doesn't look like I just threw it together. I don't need the terrain to be perfect, because I already know that that's my weak point. I just need people to not hate it. So yeah, these can be brought in a little bit. And then I feel like I need to use the slope tool. Make it big. From like here down. Part of the problem with the slope tool is it's almost a little bit too straight. Is there any way to make it have a little bit of noise? Probably not. But maybe I can use the distort tool on it afterwards to make it not quite so straight. And then smooth. Yeah, alright. Whoa. Oh, if I sprint, then it suddenly raises the speed. Okay. It's a spot that could be a more defined cliff, so flatten down, make it so, flatten it down. I think that's actually working decently well. I think I need to make more of a well here, though, or something. I need to establish a point where I'm placing my wind temple. And unfortunately, if I actually go into the game and hit F3, my limit right here, 1250, and up to, hang about, was it 1250 or was it less, because that I think I purposely made it so that way you couldn't get up onto these cliffs, which would put you at, was it 1100 or was it just 1200? And see, now I'm second guessing as to where I was putting my world border. Because if my world border is at 1100, or then it would be way too far this way. I did want you to be able to get like the very edges of the cliff. So maybe it was 1250. Yeah, okay. 1250 does sound more right. Just like looking at where I am here at exactly 1250, that's one edge. So this would be the corner and corner. So I need a good spot in here to really put my wind temple. And I have to decide if I want to put the wind temple on a slightly raised bit, or if I want it to be in a well. Because having it just be flat is a little bit boring. I like having the cliffs behind it. I'm kind of thinking of making it in a bit of a, well, part of the problem is the wind temple is on purpose. Like, it's very vertical, so I almost feel like it needs to sit on its own little pile of rocks. So I'm wondering if I should raise up a pile of rocks right in here. So we go back into that. I'm down to 3 viewers. Sorry, just can't help but notice that. Hopefully I'm not losing all of your guys' interest. I've kind of worry that I am. Be thou flatified? I kind of liked the way it looked before. So maybe not, but maybe I should raise this up instead. There is a way to just do... Oh good, I'm glad you're paying attention, Duracio. Raise this elevation up here so that way I have a platform for the wind temple to stand on, because I think I want the wind temple to be on like a raised platform and have it slope down a little bit more. So maybe what I can do is do a flatten up over here and flatten up all of this stuff back here. And if I can get like a little shelf right around here to then probably need to raise the rate because it's kind of chugging a little bit. There we go. That's better. And pull this out. I don't want it to be perfectly flat, but still just like having it be a little bit more of a raised up area would be good. I almost wonder if I need to just like make a rock. That would be the rock tool. If I make the rock an octahedron, honestly, So something about the rock tool, as far as I can tell, is it has the general shape, but it does add some noise to the shape, which is nice. I wonder if I can just do a cylinder, make it a fairly decent sized cylinder. See if I were to... Oh, I still have air selected. That would do it. No, shoot, stop that. I were to just make it out of stone for right now. See, it kind of makes the cylinder-ish, but it adds noise to it. So that's what the rock tool seems to do for me. So if I add a rock that extends out here, then I can kind of slope up into it. Now I have more of a platform for it to stand on. That didn't do enough. Here, that bit up. There. Do I want it to come all the way around here? Probably. That feels a little bit much. Nope, I don't like that bit. How is that looking? Pretty rough. I do kind of like that it makes a cliff on this side, so I'm not sad about that. Obviously it could use some finessing, so if I do, let's make this a little bit more flat on the top. Uh-oh. That's starting to make a cliff where my slope was. That's not great. Maybe flatten down at this point. Pare some of that back. That's maybe a little bit too flat now. Let's see here. Flatten down. I can maybe make it smaller. Lower the rate. Kinda chunk it out a bit. See, I don't really want that to be too much of a cliff, so... Oops. Maybe more like that. Make that be the cliff side. And that looks too smooth, so I'm going to use the distort thing on it just to add a little bit of randomness. I can maybe make it bigger. Whoa, not that big. That needs to be flattened on the top, not distorted. Flatten up. times like these where I'm like, how do I do that? I guess make more of a slope that's a bit flatter here to really drive that home. Add some distortion to it. Maybe. And smooth it. This edge is awful. Oops. Yeah, I think I'm gonna just need to slope that down a little bit. Or just bring it all the way up and fill it, do a flatten up in this entire region here. So if I do this where it's flattened up to that level, that might be better to fill in this hole. I also have to hope that this platform I'm building is big enough for my wind temple. Oh good, I'm glad you think it looks amazing. I'm sitting here building this and I'm like, I have no idea if this is good or not right now. Yeah, I think I need to fill in this hole. I'm sorry, hole. You're not filling me with happiness right now. Thank you for your kind words. I always, in any project, I always doubt myself, especially if it's something that I already like have this idea that I'm just not good with, and terrain is one of those. And I put off doing these projects because I'm just like, man, I know I have to do a whole lot of terrain, but I'm not a terrain person. I think the next thing I have to do is go through and repaint this area after I get a decent enough cliff going that's jutting up here for our wind temple to sit on. Ugh, what happened there? Let's see here, we're at flatten up, so we can flatten up around the very edges of this. And then flatten down the stuff down here to really make that into more of a cliff. And that just needs to be smoothed, I think. Hitting wrong buttons. Unfortunately, I'm not entirely sure how much time I have left to be hanging out with you guys. I think I do want to do this more, if you guys are okay with that, doing more live streams with you where I'm just messing with Axiom, trying to finesse this terrain, because honestly I want this terrain to be done and then I can move on with other things. I'd love to do a video with you guys about building trees and then fill my world with trees. I'd love to do a video that is building the actual Zora's domain. I'd love to do a video that's, you know, actually doing the Earth Temple, finishing up the Wind Temple, finessing the Water Temple, stuff like that. I'd love to actually do all of the videos I care about, and I feel like this terrain has just been sitting here for forever, and that's part of why I've been so reluctant to do videos with you, is because it's like, it's just more terrain, and a lot of it is stuff that isn't even like individual video worthy, because I could finesse on this terrain for hours and hours and still not be entirely pleased with it. But if you guys don't mind, I would love to be able to do more of this live stream setting with you to just really hash out the rest of the terrain. And again, this is a platform for my wind temple to stand on. Now I'm happier with what I have here, as opposed to what was there before. Unfortunately, I think I have to start getting going. As I mentioned before, my husband has the kids, and he was on an outing with them at the pool. But I'm looking outside, and there's a thunderstorm going on outside, so I don't think they're at the pool anymore. And it's almost dinner time, so I should. And my lights are flickering, and my power's about to go out, so I should probably wrap up this stream. And I'll have to do this again some other time. I'll try to make sure that I don't leave the stream for like a year again. I do want to do another stream with you guys soon, and it'll probably just be more of this. So if that's what you enjoy watching, I would love to have you come join me now. So, yes, Sam, you can come home now. He's asking in the chat, can we go home now? So, yeah, I'll go ahead and wrap this up, and we will, I'll continue on this again with you later. Thanks for coming to the stream. I enjoyed having you, and I hope you enjoyed listening to me rant and ramble. So, if you have any more questions for you, I love questions, because then I can talk about stuff. Alright. Talk to you later. Bye!